the delay. I hope that it was not too much of an inconvenience. And
like trying to.
there we go. Just setting up here. Give you one moment, and we will be on our way. Great. Okay. Yeah, it's now 7:01 where I am, but um, I'm sorry about that. I'm running maybe a few minutes behind schedule, but let's give it another minute or so, and then we can begin. In the meantime, hello. I hope you can hear me. Is the sound okay? Zyrother, hello. It's nice to see you. No mic connection. It's just using the phone. Oh, Mike, hello. It's nice to see you. Great, thank you. Callum, hello. Oh, it's raining where you are as well. For me too, it's raining. It's a rainy Sunday morning here, early Sunday morning here. So, oh, Jared, hello. No worries, my friend. Thank you. Tom, hello. Neil, hello. Great, thank you. Oh, thank you, Jared. Yes, yes, no problem. Erwin, hello. It's nice to not meet you. I've met you so many times before. Nice to see you. Excuse me. And Seth, great. This movie is a classic that deserves its iconic status. Matthew, hello. Mike says sun is shining in Vegas. It always is. Wonderful, wonderful. And so let's. Oh, Carl's here. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. I hope you're well, my friend. And we will give it another, as I say, minute, and from there we'll begin the live stream discussion of the film 1964 film Goldfinger. So just yeah, we'll you can. I'm sure you've already gathered your thoughts and comments, and you can get ready to start sharing your views on this film and certain aspects of it if you like. But we will begin very soon, momentarily. So let's see. There we go. Yeah, Goldfinger is an interesting one. It's it's so well. I'll get into more specifics as to why I think it's interesting. But I saw the I saw it a number of times, and I saw it again for purposes of getting into the mindset for this live stream, and I noticed a number of things that I hadn't quite figured out before, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll be also very interesting to see, of course, how you think about this film. And it's, as Seth says, it's of course it's considered iconic, but why is it iconic? And what does that mean? And what are some aspects of it that are iconic? Like what are these set pieces, and how do they fit into the whole puzzle? And the like. So, and then how do the characterizations fit into that whole fitting into the puzzle, etc. So this is the type of thing that I hopefully I can begin to navigate my own discussion during the course of the next hour or so. So, but I'm looking forward to it very much, my friends. Excuse me. Okay. All right. So I think we can begin soon. So. Let's see. And Callum says, as much as I love this film, I actually might prefer From Russia with Love. Erwin says, dedicated to the great Yaphet Kotto. Yes, yes. Very sad news about Yaphet Kotto. Thank you very much. Yeah, Callum says, the book of this film is also great. Yes, probably my favorite Bond novel. ROP or ROP. Hi, Daisuke. What's that Mads Mikkelsen thing behind you? DVD. By the way, my name is Giuliano. Hello. This is one of the components. This one, right? This is one of the components of the James Bond Blu-ray set that I have. It has these separate cases, and so each case has its own picture. And so this later version, or the Daniel Craig's run from 2006, is adorned with a picture of Le Chiffre. So, um, oh, excuse me, it's a little bit stuffy. All right. And let's see. Um, Erwin says Goldfinger's still top tier Bond, though. Um, and Seth says, I was always able to enjoy this film twice this week. Loved it. So much to mention. A whole major plot point dependent on Bond's sexual prowess. Ah, yes. Yes, we'll get to that as well. I have a little, I have a little theory about that, but that's a really good point, Seth. Cooper Glover, 1972 is here. Hello, my friend. It's okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. Timothy, hello. It's nice to see you. Goldfinger, I'm excited. Yeah, it's great. Um, and okay, so let us. Gosh, there's so many. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Um, and just Grillburger DAQs here. You say the Odd Job fight is one of my favorites of any Bond film. Well, yeah, it's a great fight. Wolfgratz is here. Hello. I saw this when it came out with my parents. I was 11, so it will always be amongst my favorites. Wolfgratz, my dear friend, our dear friend, the great, the legend Wolfgratz. Faith and Misery, hello. Greetings from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, it's nice to see you. Thank you so much. Um, and ROP. Oh, thanks. No problem. Yes, Casino Royale. What a great film. And great. And then Erwin says, um, oh, Matthew says, is there a list of Bond films that haven't been covered? I think yes. I'll get to. I really should be more organized. I think Zyrother and Cooper Clever, 1972, and Erwin and Mike and everyone else here really know what they're doing. They know more about it than I do, in fact. But um, yes, Zyrother says there is a list. So wonderful. And Steven is here. Hello, it's nice to see you. Um, Hi, Daisuke and Bear Spanner wielders. So, all right. So let us begin in earnest, shall we? So, greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and thank you very much for joining in on this particular live stream where we are talking about the film from 1964, which is called Goldfinger. And this is a Guy Hamilton film, and it's starring Sean Connery, and it's uh, uh, people have mentioned it already. It's one of these legendary films. It's iconic. There are so many images and scenes and characters that are very much heightened, and they are even more so, or they are regarded as such, perhaps in general or among the wide spectrum of both critics and fans. In this legendary type of status because of the quality of the content and the level that we're dealing with here. But it is, of course, a film, and it's a film that is made up of stories and people and situations. And so, as a type of work, I think it also operates in a very interesting trajectory. And so, this is a roundabout way for me to maybe explain in brief that I am so much looking forward to this film discussion, and I'm looking forward also to hearing your thoughts and comments about it. So this will be discussion of Goldfinger from 1964. Speaking of your comments and discussion, so let us now set forth the preliminary points, as we always do with these discussions, which is that this is meant to be a very casual discussion of a film called Goldfinger. Excuse me. And so I am not here claiming to have any type of, how should I put it, understanding or academic specialty with regard to this film. I have no inside information. I wasn't there at the production. I don't have any connections with the industry or with the filmmaking or with the studios or the people involved. So I only come at this as a type of a casual fan. And from a fan perspective, and after watching this film, as I say, from a very, very young age, I will try to share with you what it is I feel about this. So this means that, of course, I don't know everything about this film. So if there are any questions that you may have, but chances are I might not be able to answer them because I won't know the answers. But I'm sure that there are so many other people here. There always are. There are so many people here who know about this film much more than I, and who know more about the Bond series and the the Bond history much more than I. So hopefully you'll be able to find information and the answers that you're looking for from others here, or maybe there are some recommendations as to resources and texts and interviews or anything like that about the Eon production history, or the James Bond production history, Guy Hamilton film history, Sean Connery film history, etc. So hopefully you'll be able to find the answers that you're looking for. So, but the purpose of this film stream, or it's not film stream, film discussion live stream, is just to have hopefully a fun discussion. So I hope you can I hope you enjoy, and I hope you're able to talk with others and to meet other people here. And for that, we have the live chat. So the live chat is open right now, and we have some really wonderful friends who are regular companions here on this live stream journey. So thank you very much as always. And we have some new faces as well. So if you are interested in just joining the conversation, please feel free to join in. And so, as with everything else here on this channel, I always rely on you and your spirit of open-mindedness and welcome, being welcome to people, and even where there is disagreement, and even where there might be maybe say some, how shall I put it, some testy type of comments, we always walk away, either friends, or even if we're not friends, we always walk away with a sense of mutual respect. And so that has always happened before, and you've always afforded me that because you have been so kind and generous and courteous to me. And so I know that I can rely on you all during this time for that kind of courtesy and good-natured engagement going forward. I know this, so thank you very much in advance for your ever your ever generous spirit. As always, I can't do it without you and that sense of camaraderie. So thank you very much, and I'm really relying on you, my dear friends. And the chat itself will be open for anyone who wants to talk about this film, anyone who wants to address me. If you have a question for me, that's great. I really appreciate it. A couple things, of course, or maybe a few things, of course, which is that I will not always be able to get to every person in the chat. I will try my best, but due to my own mistakes, I sometimes mistakenly skip someone. And so if that happens to you, I really apologize, but it's not my intention. But I do try to make sure that everyone that is in the live chat gets a little shout out. But if that doesn't happen for whatever reason, or for the reason that I accidentally miss it, then I really apologize. It's not my intention, but I will do my best on that front. Also, if you have any questions for me about any non-Goldfinger related topic, then I will, with very due respect, I will just maybe skip over that, because I do want to focus my attention on primarily the film Goldfinger today, and maybe some other Bond films, but primarily Goldfinger. So if you want to leave that same question for me elsewhere, you can leave it in a comment in a video or something, and I'd be very happy to do my best to address it, as I say, to the best of my ability. So that there's that. Also, maybe due to time, I might have to skip over some comments going forward, because I would love to sit here and talk and chat for hours and hours and hours, but unfortunately I am always trying to watch the clock, and so maybe my own schedule might make it such that I might have to skip whole chunks of the conversation. So again, I don't mean to do that, but I am following it as I'm doing this. So just rest assured that I am following what is being spoken about. So anyway, so there is that. aspect of the live chat. I think there's it. Oh, last thing is Zyrother and Cooper Glover 1972, and also Damnful Idealistic Crusader and others. You are very kindly acting as moderators, and so. Thank you very much, as always, and Jared too, of course. You're acting as moderators, and so thank you very much for always assisting me and helping everyone else out here, and for sharing your thoughts about that. I really appreciate it. And shout out to Zyrothers, especially for always keeping all that information about the remaining Bond films and creating the poll, and Kubrick Glover following up and counting everyone and helping out with that, and Damn Fool always doing that, and Irwin and Mike and other Wolfgratz and others always helping out as well. So that is the group or the team here is so on top of things, much more than I. So everyone knows what films are left. So at the end of the live stream, around the end, we will sit down and we will determine through a type of group consensus what film will be discussed at the next live stream. So if you're interested in having a say, the floor is all yours, my friends. Again, as the live stream progresses and towards the tail end, we will determine that as a group. So if you're interested, you can stick around, maybe around, I don't know, I don't time these things, but maybe around the 8:45 a.m. mark where I am in Tokyo time, maybe around that 9ish or so. I don't know, maybe a little earlier. We'll get to that, and then we'll go from there. So okay, so with that all said, let me now very quickly just go here to the chat, and then we will be on our way. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Cooper Glover says, I just shared this live stream. Thank you very much, Cooper Glover, for sharing. That's always very helpful. Thank you so much. Mason, hello. Um, and Callum says, I feel the heightened and over the top nature of some of the film is definitely acknowledged. Yes. Yes, the great line, I must be dreaming. Yes, yes. Um, that is a really good point, and that's something that I do want to mention momentarily, Callum. So thank you. Um, Matthew says, I'm going through 83 movies for my birthday this month. Oh, happy birthday! Wow, I'm getting to Octopus before EO. Wow, wow. Well, happy birthday, my friend. 80, that is very impressive. Um, very impressive indeed. And Vaughn is here. Hello, it's nice to see you. It's really, really nice to see you. Um, Oh, Zyrithus has figured the auto mod would catch her name. Yes, you're speaking of. Oh, so actually, that's a good point. Before I begin, I'm gonna say that I'll probably, how should I put it? I don't know how you. I'm a little bit. How should I put it? I'm maybe a little bit more careful about how YouTube will automatically react to things that are said, etc. So I don't know how things are gonna react in the live chat in terms of character names, but please don't worry about it. But for me, when I'll try to say, for example, I'll try to say a certain character's name in the Sean Connery voice. So there's a character, so there's James Bond and there's Pusher Galore. So I'll try to do it like that. So if it irritates you, I apologize. I won't do it too much, but yes, there's a very famous character in this film, played by Honor Blackman, who's called Pusher Galore. So, all right. In any event, let's get started with the film Goldfinger. So, 1964's Goldfinger. This is the original release date, according to the record, the historical record, and this is also the third of this series of the Eon production films, the Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Cubby Broccoli produced run of films, and this is the third. This is the third film in this series. We've seen Doctor No, we have seen From Russia with Love, and now we see Goldfinger. And of course, this is, as alluded to by Callum and others, this is based on a particular novel, Goldfinger, by Ian Fleming. And so we have already a lot of setup pre-established and figured in terms of the chronology of the films by the time we get to this film. It's still, as we know, in the grand scheme of what we now know to be the world of James Bond related entertainment, we know it's still early days. It's still early days since, say, the first official um, Broccoli Saltzman produced film, which was Dr. No, excuse me. And so it's still early days, but be that as it may, it's at the same time, a lot, I think, has already been established and prefigured by the time we get to the world of James Bond and Goldfinger. And so it has that, I think, going for it. It can go straight to the points that it wants to make, I suppose. So there's a lot, I think, of a type of wonderful, um, uh, high tension, high paced type of atmosphere that's going on. So that's the first thing that I think it has this high octane appeal, which I think is very much part of its strength. And also, it has a strong rewatchability factor, like all Bond films. But there's something really rewatchable about this, and I'll link it to my own personal experience, which is like with many other Bond films, I saw this. Perhaps I can't remember the first time I saw this. I can't remember a moment in my life where I have not seen this film. I know it must have been when I was younger, and maybe must have been on VHS tape, but I can't pinpoint the exact point in time where I looked at this and I said, "Oh, this is the first time I saw Goldfinger," because it feels like it's always been there in my life. And my parents were fans of Bond films. My uh, in particular, the my mother was a huge fan of the early Sean Connery days, and so uh, whenever this film would come up, maybe on TV or something, I know that my parents would get so excited, and that would get me excited too, because it would be, oh, what is this thing going on here? And then it would be Goldfinger, and so there was always this sense in my own house that this was something special, and that goes also for the other run of Sean Connery films. Right, so Thunderball, and then From Russia with Love, and Doctor No, and then later not Die Another Day, but Diamonds Are Forever. Excuse me. But the so my point is that it's always been there, and from that early point, I just remember seeing it over and over and over again. Whenever it'd be on TV, I'd see it. Whenever there would be a day where I could go to the VHS store and rent something, and I'd be in the mood, I'd want to rent it, or it would be something maybe later you could watch when I was living in the UK, LWT or London Weekend Television, where I was, and they'd have those Bond films. Runs those schedules, a Bond film a week or something, and then you'd sometimes have an early Connery film, and that would be a lot of fun as well. And you'd have the amazing stunts, the gadgets, the excitement, the heroes, the villains, and all this type of cocktail was just something that just sustained me uh, from a young age and then up to now. And so it is a film that I think has withheld and has sustained so much rewatchability because it holds a lot of promise and a lot of excitement, I think, from um, maybe a young age perspective. You know what I mean? In other words, it feels like something that you could have a lot of generations getting into, from people who are, say, kids and then growing up and growing older. Now, this creates, I think, an interesting dynamic in the rewatchability factor because, as I'm sure you know and you've experienced in your own lives, you have this thing where every time you watch a film and rewatch it, there's a different type of assessment going on, and so you have a type of maybe feeling of maybe you're beginning to like it more, or maybe you're beginning to not like it so much, or you're recognizing a few weaknesses or a few of the inconsistencies, however you want to call it. So I think Goldfinger, for me, going through the years and watching it rather consistently myself, it's been those things where I've had peaks and I've troughs, and then I've had peaks again. In other words, there have been periods in my life where I've regarded Goldfinger really highly, and then maybe there have been periods, maybe I don't know, I forget exactly in my life, but maybe when I was still younger, in my late teenage years or early 20s, so around my university days, perhaps, there were periods when maybe I was thinking it more critically. And I was perhaps thinking of other Bond films in high regard. And because of those, maybe I thought Goldfinger was a little bit lesser because I'd seen it so much. And maybe I, you know what I mean? And then now, and then a few years after that, that esteem began to rise yet again because after I went through that cycle, I now realize that given those touches of what might be called criticism, still the film works very powerfully and very magically. And in fact, it operates on a number of different levels that I hadn't realized when I was watching it as a kid. And it became, I think, a much more of an interesting puzzle. And I think the puzzle and the way it's put together is going into a lot about the type of character that Bond is, and also the type of character that Goldfinger is, and also the type of character that Oddjob is, and also Pusher Galore is. And so we have this I think very fascinating link between the setup, the plot, and how that informs us about who these characters are in a really enlightening way. And so it becomes, I think, a very enriching experience. That there's that old oft-used cliche of you discover something new every time you watch it again. And I like using that phrase. I sometimes don't like using that phrase whenever I'm trying to talk about films, but for lack of a better phrase, in this particular example, I really believe that with Goldfinger. Um, and then on top of that, and then I'll end here and I'll go to the live chat. On top of that, there are undeniably some key moments in this film that for me, as a James Bond film fan, I will never be able to forget because these are so awesome. A number of people have mentioned a lot of the iconic moments. There is what happens to Jill Masterson on the bed there, or there's the character of Oddjob, or there's the hat, or there's the laser, and that sort that kind of uh, of of iconic stuff. There's the dialogue. There's the exchange. Right? Do you expect me to talk? Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. That's probably one of the most quoted sequences in all of Bond film history, I would dare say. And so there are all those iconic moments, and I get that. I totally get it. And I agree with the chorus of people who are, I think, very rightly applauding these moments and continuing the legacy because they deserve to be applauded because they are really great. But I think there's just little things too that I love, which is that I love how there's one moment where early on it's another iconic moment, which is Bond taking off his wetsuit in order to reveal his white tuxedo in order to at the very start the pre-titles, and that's often considered to be a really clever, and rightly so, a clever moment and really tongue-in-cheek type of moment. And he has the flower and he puts in there. It's perfect. And I just love the parallel between that and what happens to Goldfinger at the raid on Fort Knox, because he's wearing the coat. It's not quite a wetsuit, but he's wearing a coat, and then suddenly he takes off his coat and he has the army uniform, and his hat turns into a little army uniform cap there. So it's I love that little parallel between Bond and Goldfinger at different parts of the film. I know, but both characters are unveiling or taking off a layer of clothing to reveal their costume underneath in order for them to essentially uh, maybe conceal their true identity. So I love that. There's the moment too. I love where Goldfinger does that with the pencil. I love that moment. And then one of my favorite moments too is the old lady at the gate. So that's those are just some of the examples of the type of charm and wit and real care and class and excitement, I think, that is really infused into this film, into its very pores. And so, right, if there are criticisms or there are issues, there are, I think, it'll be. I do have some points about them now. If they're convincing or not, I'm not sure, but I don't even know if I can convince myself to that, to be perfectly honest. But still, this is a film, even with its maybe shortcomings. I think there's a room for a lot of discussion. So that's the general opening statement that I have about the film, and that's the sense of or spirit that I want to have while watching, or not watching, while talking about this film with you, my dear friends. So, in that spirit, let us move forward. But before we do, let me now go to the live chat and see what it is you have to say. So, let's see. Wolfgratz, I love Shirley Bassey's performance. We played it uh, at a tutorial. I couldn't resist imitating her live set. Oh, it's great. Um, yes, the song, right, Goldfinger. It's a great lyric, and it's it's perfect because it has this right bombast to it that is immediately arresting, and then you have the Shirley Bassey vocal, which is, I mean, it's out of this world, just how unbelievably wide ranging it is. It's like it has the range. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a musician, but it seems from my perspective, it seems to have this range of an opera soprano, but then it has that earthy edge to it that's applied by virtue of Shirley Bassey's wonderful voice, and so you get um, that almost what's the phrase? Almost I don't. It has that. Yeah, I guess earthy. When she's screaming the notes, it's like ah, it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And there's deep resonance, but still this youthful vigor. I don't know how to explain it, but it's one. And it also is great in the lyrics too. Seth says a spider's touch. Yes, uh, I liked how she says, a spider's touch, you know, those little things, and such uh, a cold finger, and that's true. I love right Goldfinger, and I love let's see what word can we rhyme with the name Goldfinger. Let's see. Cold finger. Oh, that's a great. Let's do it. Such a cold finger. Yes, yes. So now that line is very. I mean, and you can interpret it how you will, but it's still right. Cold and finger. I mean, I mean, I'm sure there are so many. I mean, how many words in the English language rhyme with the word gold, right? Um, I guess cold, sold, mold, rolled, as in rolling, um, uh, told, right? So, I mean, I guess of all those words and many more, I'm sure they picked the best one. So let's use. I mean, it's better than saying mold, right? Such a mold finger. So, but great, wonderful, and then finger too. So what are the words that in the English language that rhyme with finger? Ringer, uh, a singer. Ah, singer. So such a cold mold singer or something. But that, yeah, maybe that wouldn't have worked out. So in fact, the lyrics as they are just totally impressive, and they tell the story. They tell the story of who Goldfinger is, and so it already sets up everything for you before you even met Goldfinger, right? And so all the setup is there. The title is Goldfinger, so when you're walking in the theater, you know it's going to happen. You know who Goldfinger is, and right, and you know he's such a Goldfinger, and he loves gold, only gold. So and just in case the point wasn't driven home by Shirley Bassey, she'll say it again. He loves gold. He loves only gold. Only gold. He loves gold. He loves gold. Right. So, right. If you didn't catch it once, Shirley Bassey and company will make sure to hammer the point home. No, 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 no. Right. Right. I want to be absolutely clear here. He loves gold. So so wonderful. So everything is set up, and then you get to Miami Beach. Um, so the song is brilliant, and it's perfect, and it's well timed, and it comes at a place where it's being used to employ part of the plot propulsion, because it's in essence explaining who Goldfinger is, and in addition it's added, I think, quite nicely by the application of the title sequence, and the use of the what was it? It was the Robert Brownjohn sequence this time, right? With the way that the images of the film before we've seen it are essentially superimposed onto various aspects of this particular model. and the song is being played, and so we're seeing essentially the film before our very eyes before we've even seen it. And so we're seeing a lot of the story, and a lot of the story in fact is actually portrayed within this particular opening title sequence. I would suggest we have the whole thing with the meeting Goldfinger, and the whole thing with Jill and Odd Job and Solo, Mr. Solo, and then the fight and something to do with guns and running and things. And then there's even a callback, very interestingly, to From Russia with Love, as we know, with the whole helicopter. But we need, and I think also Doctor No, right, with the explosion. But anyway, it's not all Goldfinger, I know, but most of the scenes that we see here are Goldfinger. But what's interesting about the sequence too is that we essentially get what the story is before we get there. So we get who Goldfinger is, and we also get kind of what the sense of the story is going to be before we see the film. And I think that's a really great sense. It's its own little mini teaser. It's a kind of teaser trailer that we're getting as we're watching the film, in an interesting way of looking at it. Also, it has this way of essentially explaining the story subliminally. So uh, we we maybe feel comfortable with the proceedings. It's just now, how are we going to get there? And that's part of the fun with the gadgets, with Aston Martin, with the sequence, with the fights between the characters and the new people that we're meeting along the way, of course, right? And so it almost has this. I don't know if you well, let's see. There's a film. There's an Orson Welles film called Citizen Kane. And one of the things that's so famous about the film Citizen Kane is that the opening sequence, the way one of the opening sequences in the film Citizen Kane is this really interesting use of montage based on the the kind of newsreel footage story retelling the life of a particular person. So we get the whole life story of this main character that we know but don't know in the film Citizen Kane, all wrapped up in a very short, concise sequence that essentially starts the film, more or less. It starts the film Citizen Kane. And I know it's not quite the same, and I know the parallels aren't 100% accurate, but there is this sense that that Goldfinger has a similar type of operational basis when we're given this information in the opening title sequence at the very start or close to the start of the film. And so we're given the entire setup, and so that maybe gives us a sense of, on the one hand, having a certain sense of information, but on the other hand, it's withholding information at the same time. So we know, but we don't know what's going to happen going forward. And I think and looking back on the sequence after having seen the film so many times, I think that sequence adds, there's a sense of the foreboding and also the excitement, and something's going to happen. So in many ways, it's also very a clever type of, in a good way, type of trick, because once you see it, it's very difficult to turn it off. You know what I mean? You see it and you see all the stuff that's going to happen. So it's like a trailer, but everything wrapped up in a nice package. And then let's say it's on TV, but you turn it on and it's playing the opening title sequence. So it has that effect of wanting you to watch it. So I think there's a lot just of stuff here, and it's packed into this, and how it's employed, and how it's used, and how it's engaged, and how it conveys information but doesn't. So uh, great, yeah, yeah. Um, let's see, Matthew. Okay, cool kids clips is here. Hello. Um, let's see. Super Pineapple Jones. Hello. You say this is my favorite of the Bond films. Oh, great choice, my friend. Great choice. Let's see. Um, Bye for the Hobbit here, my dear friend. Hello. It's nice to see you. Um, yeah, Zillatube says with that opening title track comes on. When that opening title track comes on, I always get goosebumps. It's just so good. Yes, I feel the same way. Yes. Yes. And as they say, right? What does Goldfinger love? He loves gold, right? He loves only gold, only gold, only gold, right? He loves gold. So, that's great. Um, let's see. All right, just Okay, Cooper Glover, 1972 says Guy Hamilton, the director, decided to choose something totally unrelated to the rest of the film before the Goldfinger plot of the film started after the beginning credits. So you're talking about the opening or pre-credits teaser, not teaser, but pre-credits opening sequence, or I'm sorry, yeah, pre-title sequence, excuse me, which is Bond somehow on a mission to what we understand to destroy this this drug operation. I think it's heroin, right? So it's drug operation, and so it somehow has to do with some kind of facility or plant or something that's being heavily guarded. Although I mean I count, I don't know, two guards or maybe three guards. I don't know, but um, so and it's a drug facility of some kind. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but somehow some kind of illicit substance is being either processed or something in this particular facility. And it's up to Bond, we understand, to essentially destroy this facility. So I don't know. So he goes in there and he has plastic explosive. Which looks like Play-Doh. You know, I don't know if does play is do they still have Play-Doh out? I don't know, but there's that kind of clay type of stuff. But I understand it's supposed to be plastic explosive. And then he has the whole sequence about going into this huge room, which looks like a recreational type of room, and going in there, and just there just happens to be these I guess canisters of explosive or explosive material there. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to do with that has something to do with some kind of industrial use explosive. I don't know. But he's there, and he just happens to be able to align the plastic explosive and charge with that particular material. So I don't know if it was placed there. Uh, by some other agent other than Bond, or maybe it was arranged there, or maybe it's just part of the operations. I'm not sure, but in any event, he's able to ignite that and cause the explosion at a particular time. Thank you very much to Rolex, right, and the Submariner for it. So anyone who loves wristwatches and the world of James Bond, yes, of course, you know the Rolex Submariner and Sean Connery's James Bond is one of those. Great selling points, I think, of that watch manufacturer. Of course, it's different than nowadays with the Omega line, the what is it, the Seamaster, the Omega Seamaster. So, um, but um, but uh, yeah. So the pre-title sequence, and then we get into the sequence involving going into the bar, and then having the one last meeting, and then with the young dancer, and then suddenly the fight, causing the wonderful line, shocking, positively shocking, and that goes into the huge thrust of the Shirley Bassey score, the song, and the John Barry song, and the huge bam bam, that moment, and the hands, right? I think right, this is the part where it goes like this, right? Dun, dun, something like that, right? And then you see, is it Goldfinger? You see Goldfinger's um like that look. I love the look. It's like, how do you do, you know, that moment at the right, it's that look. So so anyway, the so you're right. So this is a whole setup that it feels like it's a complete separate thing, and it never is picked up again ever. And we don't quite know who the villain is here. We know that there's some type of operation. It's somehow planned because of the meetup that Bond has with another agent of some kind associated with what organization, I'm not sure, but we have some kind of agent or officer that he meets at the bar not soon afterwards. And it does have some kind of conclusion in terms of the objective somehow being the destruction of this particular facility. So that seems like it's a completely separate thing. I think there are some. I don't want to go too much into the details of the novel Goldfinger. I think there can be some points to be said that where this could be part of. It might seem separate, but it also could be said to be somewhat in line with the Ian Fleming novel. But that being said, it is, as Cooper Clever 1972, I think, very astutely points out, this is something completely separate. Now, this is, I think, a really important thing. And one of the things I really love about the James Bond, especially the so-called early James Bond films, maybe say up to Casino Royale, or maybe let's say up to the Timothy Dalton days in particular, which is that I love how it's like this is Bond. Bond is a person whose job is to essentially execute missions. His job is to execute various missions, and the types of missions that we see as viewers of the James Bond films are but just a few of the many missions that we know or we get a sense of him being on. So this gives us a sense that he is actually doing a lot of stuff that we are not privy to. And I love this. I love how this is building the world of Bond outside of the film universe that we are directly involved in when we watch these films. I love how it's setting that up. And so we're getting essentially the tail end of this little adventure, which is splendid. We also get a sense of that in terms of the other past missions that he was on. For instance, at the start of Doctor No, if you recall, in his talk with M, and how there's that whole thing about his need to change his gun because his last gun, the Beretta, right, jammed on him at his last assignment, and he had to go into hospital. And so that is alluding, of course, that's alluding to, I think, an episode perhaps that can be found in terms of the chronology of the novels versus the chronology of the films, as we know, Doctor No, From Russia with Love, etc. But the point for that moment in Doctor No, the film, is that it is suggestive of something that Bond did beyond the Bond films, and I really like that. I like how these moments are fleshing out these little feelings of Bond being beyond what we might see in, say, Goldfinger or the other films. And so this is great, and it feels like a whole new world. And it feels also like it's a big world, and maybe Bond is only one aspect of that very big world that is being painted. So I really appreciate that. Uh, and it also has a great type of how should I put it? He has to go to he has to be on a plane to Miami in an hour. He says he'll be on it, but first he has some unfinished business to attend to, and that involves going into the backstage or the back room and then seeing the dancer. And I love that. Right, this is of course. It's type of somewhat risque in terms of the way in which sexuality is now being portrayed on the screen here, in terms of the interactions between this man and this woman, and it's obviously of a sexual nature, or it's about to be perhaps very sexual indeed. But she's still right has right. She's covering herself, and even when she's very violently hit and flung to the ground in a very violent, and we see her again. She still has the towel covered up in a very maybe cinematically strategic way, and so right, this is still a movie that is meant for general audience entertainment, after all. So. But we have then the sudden fight, and I think Seth alluded to this, as have many others, of course, which is the really clever, or maybe not so clever, depending on your point of view of the person coming from behind, and Bond being able to see the reflection um, in the eye, uh, in the eye of the young woman there. So that's that's an interesting little thing. I don't know. I'm sure this has been mentioned before. Is that even possible? That's one thing. Um, it does remind me, actually. I don't know. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I don't know if you know the film. You know the filmmaker Dario Argento. He has a film which is called Four Flies on Gray Velvet, I think, and I think it has something to do with the impressions made by a person, how what he or she sees, and how those impressions are physically, essentially embedded in the layers of the eyeball, I think, and so that has a similar type of effect here. Is the reflection correct too? Should it be the other way or something? I'm not sure. Those who are experts in refraction or light refraction and reflection will know the answer to that better than I. And also the is that even possible? right? So I don't know if you've ever tried it yourself. Maybe someone that you are friends with or intimate with, I'm not sure. And you maybe say to that person, okay, stand here, and I'm going to just look into your eyeballs and see if I can see anything reflected from behind me, reflected into your eyeballs. So I hope you can understand. So if you're going to do that, of course, you should always ask permission from the other person before you do that. But if anyone has tried that, and maybe you want to share your results with me, please feel free to do so. I've never done that myself, although I'm sure it would be an interesting. It would be an interesting experiment to have. In any event, it's one moment, and of course, it's cinema. This is the whole thing about the magic of cinema. We can go with it, and we can really latch onto it. The same thing too uh, with with the fight, and then the the spectacular ending it has. I mean, this is a fight that is it's pretty rough. And Bond, there's a moment where Bond is he's getting quite the beating, and so but there's the moment where Bond does the little duck down, and the guy punches and he goes over him. And I always felt bad because as you know, at the end credits does the thing where it's actually the scroll up of the credits. On the other side, you see again images of the film that are superimposed, and this time you get not the other parts of them, you get bits of the fight in the pre-credits, right, or the pre-title sequence. And so you always get the thing where the guy is punching, and then he goes over Bond, and then you always get the thing where the guy is putting his hand on Bond's chin, and it's like this, and it's like this, and then punching over, he falls over, and it cuts and it repeats it. So you get this again, and you get the thing guy going over Bond, and you get this again. Um, so whenever that comes up in the actual sequence, the fight sequence that we see, I always get a little chuckle, because, oh yeah, that's the bit where we're going to see it again in the closing title sequence. But in any event, then it results in the fall into the bathtub, and then we know, right, the rest is, as we say, positively shocking. So uh, incidentally, of course, we have this idea of whenever there are electric shocks applied in any type of fashion in this film world, we know that there will be this sudden burst of light that comes from who knows where. So and these are pink and yellow flashes of light or something that suddenly come from the act of electrocution of some kind, or the application of electricity in this aggressive manner. And so we'll probably see this again in a later part of the film, which is the fight between James Bond and Oddjob inside Fort Knox. So, and then if you recall that, again, we do see a lot of sparks and colors, and suddenly the whole place is like flashing. So there, I don't know, maybe that little, what is it? It was a heater fan. What is it? It's a heater fan of some kind. I'm not sure, but um, when he flicks it, maybe it was connected. We don't see where the wire's connected. We assume it's probably to some kind of electrical output source, but maybe it was connected, I don't know, to some kind of unseen set of maybe spotlight or headlights or something. I don't know, which meant that maybe when the thing fell, it was connected to these headlights, and suddenly they were flashing or something. That was causing the lights. I don't know. I know what I'm saying is complete nonsense, but in any event, yes, Cooper Glover, 1973. You're absolutely right. Um, let's see. Anyway, um, uh, yes, Erwin says the woman you see during the theme song is apparently the woman who plays Dink. Yes, and this brings me to wonderful detail about C. Linder's Felix Leiter in this film. So the Felix Leiter here is a wonderful, a very interesting, unique interpretation of the Felix Leiter character, arguably quite different from the interpretation of Felix Leiter that we saw in the earlier incarnation, that being Doctor No. But in any event, we have the new, yet not so new Felix Leiter, because of course we understand that, uh, right? According to James Bond, they got pretty close to you in Jamaica, didn't they, Felix, or something, when they first meet in Miami at the hotel? Although, I think that's a reference to Doctor No. And actually, if we think about it, I don't think that Felix Leiter was in any kind of danger in Jamaica when they were working together, right? It was all Quarrel and Bond, really. So Felix wasn't in any type of danger. So I'm not sure exactly what Bond is referring to when he says they got a lot closer to you in Jamaica, didn't they, Felix? So I don't know what that refers to actually, but maybe. Um, um, but the reason why I bring it up here is Irwin's talking about Dink and the model in the in the opening title sequence, and she's, I guess, a type of masseuse or something. I don't know. In the film, you see her very briefly, and then she leaves, and then remember later when uh, Joe Masterson is dead or found dead, and it's this really uh, terrible, a really tragic, sad moment, and the music is very sad and cold, and Bond has this really serious look on his face, and he picks up the phone. The person he calls is Felix, and it's of course in the middle of the night. So Felix is like, "What's going on, James?" Yeah, and he says, "What? The girl is dead." And the first thing that Felix, it's a Dink, it's a Dink, so. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I know, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But perhaps this maybe is an indication of Felix having some kind of feelings for Dink. I don't know. But any event, yes, yes, Dink. Um, okay, hold on. Sorry about this. Okay, just scrolling through the live chat here. Mike Eli says, always happy to see the usual suspects in these live streams. Hope everyone is well. Yes, I feel the same way, my dear friend. Yes, you included, of course, my dear friend. 5 bags of popcorn. Hello. It's nice to see you. Um, yes, Wolfgretz, Margaret Nolan. Yes. Um, and Mercury says, hello, Mr. Beppu. Hello. Yes, I wanted to ask you why you don't use Letterbox. Oh, yeah. Nothing against it. I think it's a great app or a great application. Just time, Uh, I have my what's the phrase? I have my hands full with YouTube and this channel. So unfortunately, that means little to no time for Letterbox. I'd love to be able to, but it's just a matter of time. Maybe one of these days. Yeah. Um, Thank you very much for asking. Okay, let's see. There's great talks about Letterboxd here. I'm sorry. Irwin. I'm sorry. Irwin says I added Goldfinger and Piranha Part Two: The Spawning to my Letterbox log. I love Piranha Part Two: The Spawning. I know this right. If we're talking about James Cameron, I know there's a very peculiar place that this film has when we're talking about James Cameron's filmography, etc. I know this, and has this kind of odd setup. But yeah, Piranha Part Two: The Spawning. Yeah, um, uh, that that like uh, I love that theme too. Dun dun uh. I love that's great. But anyway, sorry about that. I'm just skipping. Let me go back up a little bit and say, um, let's see. Seth Wall says the music gets me so pumped. I love how each Bond film blends the 007 theme into the soundtrack in its own way as well. Yes, and actually that's a really great thing too, because one of the ways that this does this is, I think, in this opening sequence that involves Miami, and it involves meeting Goldfinger, and it involves meeting Felix, and it involves meeting Jill, and then also we see a shadow that we will later understand to be odd jobs. Although maybe it could have been someone else who was just happening to wear the same type of uniform that Odd Job did, but it's just, but actually we should assume that it's Odd Job. So anyway, uh, and in the sequence where we get the first inklings of what the plot is and who these characters are, I love that introduction of James Bond's line, Bond, James Bond, and then I love the way that the theme is interwoven, the James Bond theme, the James Bond theme is interwoven into the the score as Bond, after having gotten into Goldfinger's suite and seeing Jill there and seeing all the setup of how they're cheating at cards. He says, "Oh, Bond, James Bond," and then and then right, the whole thing with and I love how it closes in on Goldfinger, and he's got that. I love this wonderful moment where, he's like, and like this, and he's just trying to be, and I love how Goldfinger's head suddenly becomes into his body, just to try to not get, to not to be conspicuous, but he's being very conspicuous, and he's like, "Ugh, and see, this is my day, gin or something, and right, when Bond has, not if you agree, I don't think the police would take kindly to this type of cheating, like, not if you agree, not, and Goldfinger does that, it's so great, but this use of music brings me to this opening sequence, this post-title opening sequence, which is, I think, a very key sequence, right? Because it first of all, it sets up the characters. We get Felix and Bond, and we get Bond in America and in Miami, and we will get Bond in another part of America later on in the film, in Kentucky. But here we have Florida, so we have the connections made, I think, to the United States and the setting that will be the United States for a good part of the film. The second thing is, of course, is again the reintroduction of the Felix Leiter character, which is something that needs to be done because it's obviously a different person, it's a different look. It's got that wonderful, type of what's the phrase, that that TV show Mad Men, the American TV show Mad Men. It has that Mad Men type of look to it. He looks like an maybe an advertising exec type of look with you, along with the hat. Is there a scene in this film where we don't see Felix Leiter without his hat? Does he? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, in the entirety of the film, when we see Felix Leiter, he's always wearing his hat, right? Is he never not wearing his hat, even when he is apparently, dead in at the raid on Fort Knox, with the application of the deadly nerve gas, by the flying circus. Right, you see a close up of him dead, but he's not really dead. He's just pretending to be. And his hat is still on there too, right? I forget, but anyway, so Felix Leiter and his hat and his suit, right? And also, I love how Felix Leiter's walking. He has that wonderful quick walk. It's not like quite Diamonds Are Forever type of Felix Leiter walk. I think that's my favorite Felix Leiter walk. But here it's got this brisk type of walk that turns into a really wonderful run. There's a wonderful, great scene where they're chasing Bond Signal. In the middle of the film in Kentucky, it's actually Solo Signal. It's that little Homer, that the little mini version that Bond slipped into Mr. Solo's pocket in the middle of the film there, and so they're following that signal, and I think that's where he's running out of I think it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it's like, "Bah, bah," right. So and I love that run; it's great, and then they chase him. But anyway, so the introduction of Felix Leiter is here in this sequence, and then we have Bond himself. We see him now recuperating, I suppose, or relaxing, resting, recreation until his next assignment or next communication from M. And then the communication comes, which is to observe this particular individual called Auric Goldfinger. Now that's a name. That is a name. Auric Goldfinger. Great stuff. But I suppose, right, and we understand. I don't know. Maybe if this film were made now in the present day, 2021, I don't know. Maybe his name would be, I don't know. What would it wouldn't be Auric Goldfinger. What would his name be? Maybe it would be like, I don't know, uh, crypto, Bitcoin finger. I don't know. So the film would probably better be more timely if it were called crypto. No, Bitcoin finger, but it doesn't quite have the same ring to it as Goldfinger, right? What can you, if you made a song, if you had to make a song with the name Bitcoin finger, what phrase would rhyme with Bitcoin? Such a mm, mm, bit. Anyway, so yeah, so Goldfinger. So the So we had the introduction of Goldfinger, and so you get you understand that perhaps there is location shooting versus studio shooting as well, which means you see these people who are in the location, the actual Miami hotel, but it's not quite them. Especially if you look at Goldfinger, especially when he's walking down those steps, his shorts are very very short indeed. But then you see close-ups of Gert Frobe, his Goldfinger. He's got somewhat longer shorts. So, um, so there's that whole thing about cinema magic. But then we get the setup of Goldfinger and his plot here, and his plot is very very small and petty indeed, which is just he wants to cheat and he wants to win. And this is a great setup because already we know that Goldfinger is the bad guy. We already know this from the song, we know this from the title, but we get this immediately because what is one thing that we don't like? We don't like cheaters. We don't like people who cheat. We don't like people who are doing it in a really dishonest way. And if we see this immediately, it's automatic that we associate this person as the antagonist of the film. And this is not the only time where we see Goldfinger cheating, right? We see him cheating later we see him at cards, we see him later with golf, and then we see him actually in his gold smuggling scheme, which is in effect what the whole mission from M is, which is to try to monitor Goldfinger's operations to see if he is carrying out illegal smuggling of gold, which is the transfer of gold from one country to another without proper uh, um, approval. And so this is called illegal smuggling of gold. And this is considered illegal because this can be used to unfairly and unjustly inflate one's own wealth by manipulating the gold markets in different jurisdictions around the world. And also that could have a long-term effect of um, of affecting uh, incorrectly affecting various trade markets. So that's I think the concept of that particular mission from M. So that is in a sense monitoring Goldfinger and how he cheats. And indeed, we understand that he is cheating in the gold smuggling aspect according to the plot, because we see him disassemble his car, and we understand that parts of his car are in fact gold that are molded into these car parts. And then when he's in his factory, he's able to what's the phrase, it's smelting, right? So melting down the gold, and then reforming it into different shapes. And so um, so that is the means, or one of the means we understand, by which he is able to execute his gold smuggling operations. And then that leads into yet the other escalation of his cheating, almost cheating type of ways about him, Goldfinger, right? So far we've got the seeming low level of card play cheating, and then the somewhat higher level of cheating at golf, and then even the higher level of cheating in terms of illegally smuggling. And then now we get even a higher level of cheating. What's the cheating? He wants to manipulate his own gold value and also at the same time carry out the plan of some unnamed foreign government or some foreign entity of some kind. I don't know if it's an official government missive, but in any event, it seems to be from outside of any of these central operations that we are privy to in the world of Goldfinger the film. In any event, this high level form of cheating is the attack on Fort Knox, and so that is the form or the formulae or the flow or scheme of schemes that we see Goldfinger engaged in throughout the course of the film. And so it's really fascinating that at the very outset of the opening sequence here, we get a little taste of that and how he is this really almost petty to the point of being so. I mean, it's not enough for him to say, "Okay, I'm not going to cheat here, and I'm okay. I'm just play fair." No, he has to win at everything because that's the type of mindset that Goldfinger is as a character, and it's really brilliantly set up. And in fact, all the cards, so to speak, are being played here because, as I say, arguably speaking, this is setting up the rest of the film, and it's layered and it's building. And so and it links, I think, at the very end to Fort Knox, because Fort Knox is ultimately his game of cards and he wants to cheat because he wants to win. Why? Because he loves gold. Only gold. He loves gold. So this is Goldfinger. So I think it's a brilliant, subtle way that it's being set up. And too, this is interesting, right? Because what happens to Bond during the sequence? He goes up and he sees the whole thing. He intuits what's going on, and he sees the hotel, and he understands that this is due to some kind of spying on the cards because Goldfinger is so intent on sitting in his chair. And so the right, oh, you and your suntan, which I had never understood, but anyway, the but because Goldfinger's not so tan, but anyway, he's so Bond understands that this is all part of the plot to cheat at cards to see what the other person's hand is. Even though he might be hiding it, it still could be seen from afar if you have high-powered binoculars, which he does. And here we have the introduction of Jill Masterson. um, I think it's also Monica Vanderzil, Jill Masterson. But anyway, so it's Jill Masterson, and we have the plot, and then the interaction between Bond and Goldfinger, and then the interaction between Bond and Jill Masterson. And what happens at the end there? We have a an interaction also of a sort of maybe sexual or recreational nature between Jill and Bond, and then the champagne has lost its chill. We get some indication of how Bond feels about the Beatles at the time, and then he's going to the refrigerator, and suddenly we get this thing, and then right, and it's he's out. And then the interesting thing is he is still alive because he wakes up after some hours have passed, we understand, and he sees the shocking image of uh, of Jill Masterson there. I'm sorry, I really have to do this. The Jill Masterson. It's a really shocking shot, of course, as we know. But as we say, in order to, there's this thing about how I think it's parodied really well in the films. The films Austin Powers. But there's a thing where Jill Masterson's lifeless body is there, and we understand she's painted in gold. And in the middle of the frame, we have this. I think it's like it goes like this or something. It's like a like a pillow or maybe a chair, you know what I mean? So anyway, so that but anyway, we have this what is it, the Jill Masterson shot here, again, which is really quite shocking because you'd never think about this type of way of essentially killing someone in this cold way. And I'd never thought about this. And uh, I've heard that it's possible to die in this fashion, but then I've heard that it's actually not scientifically accurate. But then I heard it. I'm actually not quite sure if it's scientifically. I've never really thought about it. I've never researched the subject. But in any event, we have this instance of what was the phrase, skin suffocation, which is it sounds really terrible way to go. And it's gold too, so it has that really um, almost. Vicious edge to it while still being in this weird way, this coldly, and it's described as being this cold, frightening, tragic, erotic image. And it's all of that. And we get this moment suddenly, which ends the first act of the film in essence. So, but it raises the question, which is if Goldfinger and by extension Odd Job, if they are so angry at what happened at the card game, they wanted to kill Jill, right? Why didn't they kill Bond as well? I don't understand. Maybe they didn't know who Bond was, but he was still with Jill. So if Jill was going to be killed, right, it would seem like from Goldfinger's perspective, um, it's odd that they decided to leave Bond alive, right? So, but maybe that was a good thing, or maybe not. I'm not sure because it leads to some questions. Had Bond been killed at this point, how would MI6, um, how would the British government, how would they have interpreted this particular act? Would that mean, therefore, that Goldfinger was someone of extreme interest and they would have pursued him further, which would have been very inconvenient for Goldfinger because of course, we know that later on, in the very close proximity of time, he is planning to carry out the Fort Knox um, Operation Grand Slam. So, uh, right, so maybe it was in the end in Goldfinger's favor that he left Bond alive and he killed Jill. But if he had assassinated the secret agent 007 at this time, that would have, of course, left him free to be concerned with other things other than Bond, because Bond, of course, would have been. But so it's an interesting choice that he leaves Bond alive there, and what happens to Jill happens to Jill. But in any event, that's what happens. And in an interesting way, it is also a type of parallel with what happens later on in the film, of course, too, because the whole thing about how Bond is left alive all the way up to the end and the final moments of the implementation of Operation Grand Slam via the dawn raid on Fort Knox. The whole point of him being alive is because Goldfinger, he wants him dead and he's about to kill him, but then he is tricked into believing that maybe if Bond is dead, right? Because Double Eight will replace me, right? He knows what I know, right? You know nothing, Mr. Bond. Operation Grand Slam, for instance. So the whole point, the whole trick that Bond is employing on the table there before the laser is about to essentially, eviscerate him, is that if he is left alive, that will not uh, indicate to the CIA, Felix Leiter in the CIA, or M in Great Britain. It will not signal to anyone that that there's any real need to assemble all the forces. That Bond is monitoring the situation. Everything seems well in hand, according to Felix Leiter, anyway. And so, this is basically to assuage any type of or avoid any type of panic of or deep scrutiny. And so that's the whole point of keeping him alive. And if that's the case, there's an eerie, strange parallel, would you not say, with how Bond is essentially left alive at the very opening sequence here in Miami. And in many ways, that is part of Goldfinger's scheme. In a short term, perhaps it could be said to be to Goldfinger's benefit, but actually in the long term, we understand that this choice in Miami and the choice later in Kentucky um, is going to lead to Goldfinger's doom, because of course it means that Bond is alive, and if Bond is alive, we know that Bond will be able to carry out his heroic mission to the end, which he does, and so that is the downfall of Goldfinger ultimately. But so there are these interesting parallels, I think, set up already with this opening sequence and then with the rest of the film. So anyway, now let me go back to so Seth, thank you very much. So yes, the way it blends in, the theme blends in, and I think it blends in really beautifully. As an example, that scene in the in Miami. So scrolling down, let's see. Cooper Clever 1972 says Goldfinger is like a Bond villain. Is like a Bond villain, like Zorn, sort of, when he actually kills some of his own people, locking Oddjob and Tish in the safe at Fort Knox and wearing the military jacket and shooting some. Yes, yes. He's hands on in a kind of slimy sort of way, which makes his villainy even more villainous. Um, and he's not above, right, or below, or whatever the phrase is. I mean, he will really kill his own men. He doesn't care, and just it's really. And what happens, and that's the real twist too. That's an interesting thing too about the parallel between A View to a Kill and Goldfinger, right? Because there's a twist, there's a type of betrayal that happens in both films, but we have Oddjob here acting in face of that betrayal still to the very end. I don't know if it's loyalty to Goldfinger or what, right? Because when Tish says, "Oh, we're trapped," Oddjob is seen on the other end of the platform there, and he's seen in a distance, I don't know about you, but if I look at his face, if I try to look at Oddjob's face, it's true it's in a distance, so I don't know. There's a sense of maybe he's confused or he's shocked. Like, so I can actually see perhaps there's on his face registering a sense of shock or surprise. Now, I don't know what that means if I'm correct, if what I'm seeing is indeed what I'm seeing, which is Oddjob being surprised. Now, if that's the case, why is he surprised? Now, I'm not sure. It could be for a number of reasons. Maybe he's genuinely surprised that he's locked in. Okay, but even though he might be genuinely surprised, that doesn't automatically mean that he hates Goldfinger for it. He may or may not. Who knows? Why does he then prevent Tish from disarming the bomb? That's an interesting question. Is he that loyal to Goldfinger? Possibly. Is he maybe? Is he somewhat? I don't know what the phrase is, maybe imbalanced, possibly. Maybe is he just so intent on living in the moment that he all he wants is just to have a good fight with someone and he doesn't care? Possibly. Maybe this is an expression of his own life philosophy, right? Carpe diem, seize the day, or maybe in his mind at the moment, not seize the day, but actually seize Tish and throw him over. So, um, what is it? I don't know. I'm not good at Latin, so carpe diem, carpe tish. I don't know, but anyway. So the that could be an expression of his life philosophy, odd jobs. So who knows? There's a whole lot of mystery when it comes to odd job and why he does what he does, especially at the end here. It would seem that perhaps one of the most maybe reasonable interpretations that he has, for whatever reason, this steadfast and unshakable loyalty towards Goldfinger for whatever reason. Now, I am not sure what the source of that would be. I don't know what the relationship is between Goldfinger and Oddjob. We understand in later films like Drax in Moonraker, it seems like the hiring of hench people is like you can go to a phone book and just check who like there's a hench person phone book and you can just check, so I'd like to hire Jaws or, that sort of thing. So I don't know if Goldfinger has the same phone book as Drax does, but, um, or maybe there is a really deep connection between the two. We have seen these types of relationships before. There's a strong sense of loyalty. Knick-Knack and Scaramanga, for example, I would suggest that Knick-Knack is so loyal to Scaramanga for some reasons that we are not privy to in terms of their backstory. But I would suggest that there is a strong sense of loyalty there. And I would say, too, that at least from Mayday's point of view in the film of You Two a Kill, there is a strong sense of loyalty and maybe even love that she felt towards Zoran in that film. So maybe there's that same type of love and dedication that's felt on the part of Oddjob. Who knows? But in any event, yes. So that leads to the initial question or initial comment from Cooper Glover about how Goldfinger he will betray anyone in order to achieve his objectives, right? Because what does he love? He loves gold, only gold. He loves gold, right? So anyway, um, let's see. Scrolling down, ROP or ROP says it's the same for Bond is in my blood, so to speak. um, let's see. Yeah. Wolfrat says, but Goldfinger gets no joy from killing his minions. It just becomes necessary, such as life or death. Zoran has lost it completely. That's an interesting comment, Wolfrat. Do you think that Goldfinger gets no joy out of it? I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. There's no indication either way. Maybe it's done out of necessity, but there doesn't seem to be any type of moral compass either way for me. No indication of it anyway. Um, and so it's not clear to me again, right? Maybe he doesn't get any joy out of killing. Why? Because what does he love? He loves only gold. So okay. Um, Seth Walsh says I was disturbed to see Jill's sister. So um, right, Tilly Masterson die by Hat after not being able to avenge her sister's golden death. Great shootout there with the shield on the car. Yes, although you must say that she did have her chance. Um, she did have her chance right on the roadside there, right in Switzerland, right with the sniper's rifle. And she was up top there, and then Bond was on the middle level, and Goldfinger and Oddjob were on the bottom level. So she did have her chance, but apparently the aim wasn't good enough because the bullet hit the side of the road where Bond was, and so Bond misinterpreted that to mean that she was trying to kill him. And then Oddjob has a smile on his face as though he knows exactly what's going on, which I'm not sure. Why would he know that? Maybe they knew that they were being followed. I don't know, but maybe they knew about Tilly. Maybe when they hired Jill, maybe they did a background check on and they found the family history of Jill. I don't know, but anyway, um, yes, and the Tilly, right? Tilly Soames, all right, and she has the case with her with the initials TM. It's for my ice skates. I suppose that could be true if her ice skates also had maybe some kind of mechanism that turned in, maybe they're like transforming ice skates that turned into a pistol. But anyway, it's for her ice skates, right? And this is really interesting too, because it leads to a number of different factors. Okay, and so Seth, thank you very much for bringing this. So first of all, we have the idea of uh, uh, hold on. Excuse me. We have the idea of the Aston Martin and the chase. What's Tilly driving? It's again, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's a white Mustang, I think. I think, but anyway, so it's the chase along the roadside here after Bond has been essentially shot at, or he thinks he has, and so he uses the Aston Martin, which has been given to him by Q branch, as well as that bar of gold, I think, but that was used earlier. But in any event, um, the chase between Tilly and Bond, and then the first time we see in action the Aston Martin and the whole thing with the spiked thing that comes out of the center of the tires there, that destroy the tires of Tilly's car. Not just destroys the tires, actually, it actually destroys the side door metal. And you see this huge line of like twisted, destroyed metal in between the two tires that are also destroyed. So the tire here, they're both blown out because of the Aston Martin, and also the line of destroyed metal here because of whatever that thing was punching a hole into the metal. And so when the car runs into the side there, Tilly, thank goodness, is okay, of course. But then they say, "Oh, it's a double blowout. I've never seen one of these before." And it's like, "Oh, these are new tires." They don't mention the fact that this, not just the tires are blown, but the entire side of the car is like all destroyed. You think, "Oh, wouldn't like." Oh, if Bond said, "Wait, I've never seen a double blow up before," if I were Tilly, I would say, not just what did you do to my car? Look at this, you destroyed my car. What did you do? But maybe she was still in some shock. It didn't quite register at the time. She did look back at the car like, what was this? What's going on? But any event, yeah. So that is the introduction of what the car can do. According to Guy Hamilton in the supplements, this is the supercar. And so the revolving number plates and the ejector seat and the oil slick, and I know there are a number of different other things that were meant to be used but were never shown in the film. But um, and what I love too, and this brings me back to Tilly and Bond, their very brief relationship on screen, which is when they are outside Goldfinger's facility and they are caught because they have accidentally triggered the alarm. Then they have to escape in the car, and so Tilly and Bond are in the car at nighttime. And when they do the whole thing with the tricks and the gadgets in the car, I love the moment where Tilly's laughing at Bond, and Bond looks and, yeah, yeah, I know. So I love that moment because um, it's a very lighthearted moment, and it's the first time I think where Tilly, the character, is really smiling, and I think she's really acknowledging. So if had she survived, I think this would have meant that maybe they would have become maybe romantically involved. I don't know. That's how these films work. But in any event, it's a moment, I think, of levity. It's also a moment of is a human touch. I've mentioned before. It reminds me a lot of the moment where. Um, Bond and Melina in the film For Your Eyes Only are driving, and they're driving. I love a drive through the country, and Melina laughs. I love that charming moment. It's just a moment of warmth, which is, of course, cut short so tragically by Oddjob and his killer hat. Now, this brings me to the other point. Of course, we saw what the hat could do to a statue. It essentially decapitated a statue. Now, if you think about it, if it could do that to a statue, then we really shouldn't have done. But you don't really want to go there because it's not necessary. Only for purposes of this entertainment, because if you went that far, it would have been just too gruesome. So in any event, we know what the end result is. The end result is the same. This young woman who once was alive is now not with us anymore, and that in and of itself is very tragic. And we feel the tragedy of that moment because Bond takes time to stop and to stop his attack and go to her, right? This is not a cold this is not a cold type of Bond. Bond is a caring person here. He's really genuinely affected when he sees this young woman now dead, and so he could have escaped, but he didn't, and so that I think that's another indication of the type of character Bond is as well, which is an interesting development. And also maybe Bond is someone who is maybe carried, not, I don't know, carried away is the right word, but he lets his emotions also guide him, which is indicated in that interesting exchange that he has with himself early on when he first sees Tilly in her car, and he's like, I want to I want to see what this is about. He's like, discipline 007, discipline, right? So we could have had another moment which is like the golden eye moment at the beginning with Xenia, Onatop, and Bond, and the assessment Bond is having, and the whole thing with the cars and driving. That could have been another. That could have been a GoldenEye moment. I know GoldenEye came later, but we would see that type of moment played out late in a later film. But in any event, Bond here is trying to engage in a certain level of discipline, right? Which suggests that he's trying not to let his emotions get the better of him. Well, what does he do here? In essence, he lets his emotions guide his actions in terms of his reaction to Tilly's death, which I think is actually very touching. I really do. I think it's there's a warmth to his character that I don't think is acknowledged a lot. We will actually see a lot of warmth in the character, I would suggest too, in another film, the next film, in fact, which is called Thunderball. And there's a character in that film called Domino, and so we see a relationship develop between Bond and Domino, which is a very emotionally heavy one, I would suggest. And so I'd like to see that here in Connery's performance, at least in Goldeneye, not Goldeneye, Goldfinger, excuse me. There are these layers that I think on the entertainment level really wonderful. The car, the gadgets, the chase, and we have Odd Job, and we have choices of entertainment, what to show, the type of violence level to show on screen, and what not to show, and then also indications of character too, and also links to other films, GoldenEye and For Your Eyes Only being examples of those. And we get more Odd Job and Bond. We see that Odd Job is a formidable foe. Nothing can stop him. Essentially, he can, whatever his prey is that he is chasing, he will chase it, and he will find his prey, and he will catch what he's looking for, whatever the cost. And so this is a very frightening indication of how Oddjob is as powerful as he is. Um, we have all these hench persons. I suppose they're all men. I don't see any women in the blue and yellow, the yellow uniforms. Which I don't know. There's always something about Bond and villains and their uniforms, of course. And this is probably, I don't know where you'd rank the Bond villain uniform. Like, right, there's Goldfinger's uniforms. There's maybe Doctor No's uniforms for his personnel. Maybe there's the Spectre uniforms and From Russia with Love. Those black tights. And then maybe there's the uniforms that we see in You Only Live Twice, and maybe there's the Stromberg uniforms, the red on the Laparis and The Spy Who Loved Me, and there are the Drax space suits. I suppose those, or I guess they're orange. I suppose, but I don't know where in if has anyone ever ranked the the villain the villain personnel uniforms in order of like best to worst. I don't know if ever someone were to do that, where would the Goldfinger uniforms rank? I don't know. I'm not sure. Your choice, your call if you're to make that video. Anyone, if you want to make that video on YouTube, please, and let me know. I'd love to see that video. But um, uh, what was I saying? Um, what was I saying? Okay, so yes, so in this sequence we see a lot, and we see the Mr. Ling, and we see a little bit of the gold. We see a little bit of the gold smuggling operation. It's interesting too because we are privy to what goes on inside the gold factory, the smelting factory, but Bond isn't, right? Bond doesn't know about the gold smuggling operations, and so it's not clear to me if Bond ever figured out Goldfinger's smuggling operation, right? Because Bond would always be outside. He wasn't. Oh no, actually, no. Right, no, he would have known, right? So, but anyway, uh, uh, um, uh, I'm sorry. I'm losing track of myself. But in any event, the or would he have known? I'm not sure. Would he have known? There was a shot. Was there a shot of him? Was there a shot? There was a shot of him looking in, right? Right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. There's a shot of Bond looking into the facility. Was there a shot of him looking into the gold smuggling and the melting down of gold operation itself, or was that cut into the film? Now I have to review the film again to be sure, so I'm not sure if he actually knew or not. If you know, my friends, please let me know, and you'll teach me something new. But in any event, we do get, as viewers anyway, the idea of the Goldfinger smuggling operation, and we get a hint of Operation Grand Slam, and we get the Mr. Ling, and so the link to some kind of foreign power of some sort, and that leads to the development of what Operation Grand Slam is. So a lot is already embedded into this particular sequence as well, and this is yet another example of what I think the main hypothesis of Goldfinger the film is, which is every scene it might seem separate, but in fact there's so much embedded in it, and a lot of information is already layered. So already Operation Grand Slam is being layered at this very outset, which leads to the plot twist with the laser, which leads to the actual implementation of Operation Grand Slam in the final part of the film. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Anyway, so sorry about that. Let's see. Let's see. Um, oh, my brother, Erwin says, my brother had his first laugh today, 5 seconds in with the fake duck. Yes, yes, fake duck. Also, that's another link to, I suppose Q Branch really likes this thing with putting animals, fake animals on one's heads. I think Octopussy has a similar, I don't know if, yeah, maybe Octopussy is perhaps an updated version of that. We'll get to Octopussy we'll get to that when you talk about the film Octopussy. Um, yeah. Marzan Worldwide, wide is your hello, my friend. It's nice to see you. Irwin makes it the suit underneath was used again in True Lies. Yes, Callum Chung also mentions the homage to Quantum of or the homage to Goldfinger in Quantum of Solace, which yes, that is definitely the case. Excuse me here. Just have to. Sorry. There we go. I'm sitting on the floor, and so if I sit for an extended period of time, my legs get cramped. So just have to. There we go. Just stretch out my legs here. Sorry about this. Um, let's see. So I wrote, yes, gold member. Yes, Operation Grand Slam, positively shocking, says Carl. Armand is here. Hello. Armand says Daisuke should be the next Bond. Oh, that's very kind of you. Yes, I don't think. Um, yeah, I think if I were to play Bond, what story would I be in? I'm not sure. Let's see. Hmm. Let's see. Maybe it would be. It could be the Living Daylights. Maybe it was the Living Days. I was, as I mentioned, when I was a kid, that was one of the first films I saw, and so that and A View to a Kill in the mid '80s because I was born in '79. So, and then the right View to a Kill is '85, and Living Daylights what is '87, I think, and so I loved Living Daylights, and I um, I had and have this huge crush on Mariam Dabo because and Cara Malovi. And so, yes, if I were to play Bond, I'd love to play Bond in The Living Daylights. Yeah, that would be great. Um, and let's see. So, let's see here. Yes, Erwin says, I love it when James disses the Beatles. Bond for the win. Yes, although I think Damn Fool Ideals Crusader and others mentioned that he might have had a change of heart by the time Live and Let Die came around. But of course, right, Paul McCartney in Wings is not quite the Beatles, although there is that strong Beatles connection. Um, one of my favorite Paul McCartney post Beatles songs it's a song called Monkberry Moon Delight. by the way. I think it's on the album Ram, I think. Oh, let's see. Um, Damn fool like Joseph Crusader. Forgive me if I'm a few minutes late. Yeah. Oh yes, yes. Yes. Thank you very much, Damn fool like Joseph for the we call the Granny machine gun. Yes, the I've mentioned it before, but I have to say it again. One of my absolute favorite moments in any Bond film is in that sequence with after the or before right after the moment with Tilly's death, and then they're trying to escort Bond using the Aston Martin, but then Bond tries to make one final getaway, and then we see the little lady at the gate there, and she has the little curtsy, and then she sees we see her back, and it's like, you know, that's I'm like, oh, I get. It's really quite amazing, that moment, and the power of these sort of elderly in these films is really quite astounding. And I know why I don't want to for whatever reason, I don't want to go into specifics, but I know Criterion and Paramount is in the air. One of those Criterion titles is Don't Look Now. And so I always get a kind of Don't Look Now vibe when I see that. But anyway, this moment is iconic with the machine. I love how she kind of like, it's like, she handles the machine gun, actually, arguably speaking, much better than, say, Tiffany Case at Diamonds Are Forever on the oil rig. Tiffany Case is like, jump, huh? But like yeah, she here in Goldfinger, like, wow, she's just like, oh, it's almost like there's a point where it's like it's like so it's like so strong, the propulsion, that it's almost like she can't point it, pointing upwards, it's like, it's wonderful. But she is dedicated. She is absolutely dedicated. Now, I don't know why she's dedicated. Is she dedicated to Odd Job and Odd Job's crew, or is she dedicated to Goldfinger? I don't. Maybe it's dedication to Goldfinger. If so, could you imagine that old lady going all the way to the end at Fort Knox? I think she would have been a formidable foe. And had she been in Fort Knox and not Odd Job, what would have happened? Could you imagine the fight between the little old lady and Bond in the middle of Fort Knox? Oh my god! And Tish is like, "Oh, oh, we're trapped. We can't get out." And she's there's like, "Huh? What's going on?" "Oh, I'm gonna defuse. I'm gonna disarm the bomb." And the little's like, "No, no!" Right? So that's the little old lady versus Bond. Wow, wow. But anyway, that would have been a completely different film, I know, but still, that would have been interesting too, because Bond's like, how do I fight? I can't. How do I fight her? It would have been, um, but then she would have, right, said, "Ah," and then it would have been too late. And then could you imagine the whole sparks that fly? And then the whole thing, and then she falls over. But anyway, that would have been a different film all the time. But that's a whole new story. I don't know. Has there ever been any type of fan fiction focusing in on this particular character? Um, as Damnful Ideals Crusader describes it, Granny Machine Gun. But anyway, um, yeah. Um, Marzan Worldwide says, "Isn't it amazing that a series of films that has lasted over 50 years has no yearly film festival? We should start one." Does Oh, is that true? That's interesting. I know that there are always these shows or these programs or schedules on TV, for example. But that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I'm not sure. Mole. um, yeah. Let's see. Craig Walker's here. Greetings from the UK. Love this film. Yeah, it's a great film. Yeah. Dark Phoenix here. I think he loves gold. Yes, yes. Do you think so? Yeah. Yeah. How do you know? Yeah. Um, and yes. Damn full ideals of Crusade. The Brown John titles are so underrated. Yes, amazing when you realize it's Margaret Nolan as a Golden Girl. Is there a moment? I love the moment in the titles where I think it's Margaret Nolan's face and her maybe her shoulders, and actually Odd Job's face. The moment where we see, I think it's the moment where we see Odd Job, and he's carrying the golf bag, and he's just standing around there. And I think it's that moment. So it's like it's this weird thing where you can't, it's Odd Job, but you can't really see who it is. It's because it's a face, it's a different face, superimposed on a face of a completely different person. It's like what is it? What am I seeing? So it's this weird kind of, looks like this. I don't know what it looks. It looks weird. I don't know. So you can't really make it out, but I think it's made up for later in the sequence when you see Odd Job driving, and Solo there, and you see the car. What is it? The Lincoln Continental. Um, Anyway, let's see. Um, Byford the Hobbit says, imagine, yes, actually call yourself Pusher, Pusher Galore. Thank you, Pusher Galore. Yes, we'll talk about Pusher Galore in a second. What a very fascinating character. Um, Marsden said, yeah, Juggernaut in the back. Yes, Juggernaut. Uh, just for anyone who might be interested, between you and me, there will be a video on Juggernaut very soon on this channel. It's going to be a series called 1970s disaster movies. I don't know if it'll be a video a day, but it'll be Juggernaut's going to be there. Um, I'm looking forward to that very much. Let's see. Um, Samuel Stevens says here, hello. Armin says, I personally find the opening title sequence annoying. That's fair. That's very reasonable. Not a problem. Um, Cooper Clever 1972 says some of these Bond films, the starting of Goldfinger for one, seems to be echoed in the Pixar film The Incredibles. Oh, that's interesting too. Also, I think there's a bit of a music type of homage or cue or some kind of semblance with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I think, as well. Let's see. Yes, that we're talking about the dubbing of Gert Froba's voice, although um, uh, I've heard it being described as actually Gert Froba's voice. You can hear it twice in the film Goldfinger. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I don't know I know where one of them is. I know there's one moment definitely where you can hear Gert Froba's voice, his real voice in the film. Um, it's the moment where he's giving his pitch to all the gangsters, and he's talking about the great achievements that have been made by humankind, the great endeavors, splitting the atom, sending a person to the moon. You know, they've achieved all these great endeavors. Of they have achieved wonders in the fields of human endeavor, except crime, right? So I think that moment, except crime, is actually Gert Froba's voice. You can actually tell. I mean, I haven't been able to verify it personally, but my ear says to me that yes, it is indeed for Gert Froba's voice, by virtue of the fact that you can hear the difference in the tenor of the voice versus how he is dubbed before versus that particular moment. So I think that's one moment where you actually hear Gert Froba's voice. I don't know where the second, I know people have described two moments. I don't know where the second one, if anyone does know, please let me know where the second moment is. What I can say is that there is an early trailer of the film Goldfinger. It's an early one, and so there's the scene where Bond is on the table with the laser, and the Goldfinger says, you know, choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last. And that in the film is dubbed. That is definitely dubbed. But in the trailer, in this more vintage or at the time contemporary trailer, that scene shows up, and actually you can hear it's a different voice, and it sounds more in keeping with what was recorded at the time. So that's my way of assuming that voice in that trailer is Gert Froba's voice. Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be he says may in a slightly higher register. It may be your last. That's what he says in the trailer. So I know that I can assume that his real voice is heard in the trailer and in this moment in the film with except crime, but I can't pinpoint the other moment where his real voice is heard in the film. So if you know that there is a second moment, please let me know. Maybe it's you didn't come here to play golf. I don't know when he's saying that under his breath. I'm not sure, but yeah. But anyway, let's see. Kasfari exclamation point is here. Hello. Our ROP Rupp says the mini movie pre-title scene was a great idea from director Guy Hamilton. Yeah, Damnful Ideals of Crusader says Froba became much more proficient over the shoot, but the dubbing Michael Collins is so spot on you can't spot it unless you know it's there. Yeah, I did hear, right. There's a story about how there's a story that Honor Blackman says about how her one of her first working days with Gert Froba on the set. I think it was that scene, right? Operation Grandson will make you a very rich woman or something. And she mentions the what she perceived to be certain language points of language, shall we say, about the performance. But it really, I think, is so seamless, and it's not clear to me that it's there. In fact, yes, as I say, in these moments, for instance, this trailer moment, it's really quite brilliant intonation, Gert Froba's intonation. So I'm yeah, and you're right too. The dubbing actually makes it even more seamless and more powerful. Irwin says Goldfinger is also the only Connery film that is non-Spectre. Yes, that's an interesting. There's a whole thing Spectre, Smersh, and the adaptation of the novel from Ian Fleming. So that's an interesting little change, as it were. But it does make it kind of independent. Although one wonders what the connection is with Ling, right? And um, was there a connection there? We're not sure, of course, directly, but yeah, that's a really good point, Erwin. Um, uh, where's where's Pusher? So let's talk about the character, Honor Blackman's character, Pusher Galore, who I think is another very fascinating, interesting character. She has this very important plot point, of course, in terms of her actions that drive the plot to its climax and conclusion with Fort Knox, and it's her choice that is so key. Without her influence, the it would have been a really terrible thing that would have happened, and Goldfinger would have won. And so she is absolutely essential. Now, um, the character of herself is a villain at the start of our meeting her because she is obviously associated with Goldfinger. She is in cahoots with him. She runs what we understand is the Pusher Galore's flying circus, and so we understand that the people that are working in the flying circus are also going to be part of this plot. And also, they seem to be privy to this plot too, because they know they have to fly over the specific point or target, which is Fort Knox or the Fort Knox vicinity. And also, they need to release the gas, and so they know it's not like they are unwittingly being part of the play. It's very clear that they know what it is they are doing, and so they are probably. I mean, it's an interesting way that the Pusha Galore character turns into this type of from an adversary to an ally, and it's done, I think, through the way that Honor Blackman portrays the character. You see already that she is not she it's a mere business transaction between her and Goldfinger, when Goldfinger has that moment where I think he's trying a sense to seduce her. She says, she essentially refuses his advances and says, "What are you going to do when Operation Grand Slam makes you which woman? I'm going to, maybe go back to nature and live my life as this independent person." Or something. Essentially, that's what she says. And so, and Goldfinger's like, "Okay, right," and that's great. So that's great, and just move on. But it's a business transaction, and she has no other affiliate kind of not affiliation, but she has no loyalty it seems, attached to Goldfinger other than this being a business transaction. Now, that's also reminiscent, I think, of Jill Masterson, or Jill Masterson described earlier. He pays me to help him cheat, and also he pays me to be seen with him. Just seen, just seen. So there is, and she's very quick to essentially betray Goldfinger, Jill Masterson is. And so that is a kind of parallel that we saw early set up, which is the way that Bond is able to convince Jill Masterson to come on his side is very much the same or similar thing that one could say happens to the Pusha Galore character when she meets Bond. Now, this brings me to a very I don't know if it's controversial point. It could be, but it was actually something that was remarked upon later by the Luciani Polizzi character in the next film Thunderball, which is this idea that actually I think it's a very it's a very fair criticism, which is this idea that it seems like Bond is able to convince people to become completely changed after one moment with Bond in an intimate physical nature. That's enough to make people convinced. It's this type of way that Bond is able to essentially use his sexuality to get what he wants, and so this is seen, I think, as being perhaps a critical point, or maybe potential critical point of this characterization of Pusha Galore. Now, I completely can see that perspective, very much so, and actually, that's the reason why I think the character of I think the Luciano Paluzzi character in Thunderball, I think, is such a great one. Fiona Volpe's character is so powerful because she is. It makes her even much more of an advocate and much more interesting, actually. I think from a certain perspective, anyway. But going back to Honor Blackman's performance or Pusha Galore's performance, I think actually it's there's a way to look at that still and see it as being a moral a kind of a questioning morality that Bond has before their physical encounter. And I think that is, in essence, one of the reasons why it could be said that Pushy Galore decides to make the turn as she does. It's very similar to the Jill Masterson turn as well. Jill Masterson being, quote unquote, a foe because she's allied with Goldfinger. Now she becomes a friend because now she's allied with Bond. It's the same type of turn with Pushy Galore. Why so? If you recall, in in the when Bond and Pusha Galore are just wandering the ranch there, under they're being watched by Felix and company, right? So before they go into the barn or the haystack area there, Bond actually turns to her and she says, he says, "Oh, it's a pity it has to end tomorrow," right? He says, "Oh, it's a lovely pity it has to end tomorrow." So he turns to her and says, "He's quite mad. And actually, that's a pretty serious and I would suggest very major moment because the film takes a moment to stop and has the characters stop and turn to each other. Bond turns to her, and there's a look of concern on her face, Pusha Galore's face, when he says that to her. But he has to end tomorrow. He's quite mad. And I think that is actually the moment where she is beginning to realize, perhaps, that this is not something that is a worthwhile endeavor. And that is probably the start, I would suggest, of maybe the turn. And the fact that she's able to turn so quickly might be suggestive of the fact that her character is more good natured than what we might have been led to believe at the very start of seeing her on the plane, because she gives no indication about who she is and the type of say moral upbringing that or the morals that have been instilled in her via her upbringing. Let me put it that way. That's a better way to describe it. So we have no way of knowing this from the viewpoint of watching the film, but we can speculate and we can make reasonable speculations. And I think this type of interaction between Bond and Pushy Galore uh, before they enter into the barn, I think that is maybe an indication of what could be part of her overall inner character makeup when it comes to her morals, and so her view on the world. And I think that could be a way of looking at it. Now, does it totally diminish what Bond does in terms of a physical or sexual nature? It doesn't. And in fact, also there is this. There is this type of one way to look at it is a type of a view of the world in terms of a type of chauvinist view of the world, male chauvinist view of the world that is expressed by Bond in this particular action, as an example. Or it could be like a genuine a moment between characters. Again, it's really hard to tell, and the fact that we see. And it's hard to tell too because of the nature of Bond's characters being, we understand, quite a promiscuous one, and so we're not quite sure. I mean, I've never done a, I've never gone through. I mean, I guess one could, go through the entirety of the films and see all the characters that Bond has been intimate with, and see what their, how they have ended up in terms of their alliances by the end of, you know what I mean? So in any event, I understand it. It's a fair criticism to make, but at the other hand, I think there are alternative perspectives that one could have at the same time. Let me put it that way. And still, I think in those alternative perspectives could still be used in a way that could reasonably be setting up or supporting the perspective on the character of Puship Galore as having these types of shall we put it, of having a sense of the moral implications of what she's going to do. And I think that hint is given to us, possibly anyway, in this dialogue exchange between the two of them before they go into the barn. So that's what I think about that. But at the same time, I totally get it, and it's a definitely a fair way to view the film. That's for sure. I completely get that, and also the films overall. Let's see. Anyway, just going forward here. I'm sorry. I'm totally dominating the conversation here. I don't mean to. Um, just scrolling down here. Speaking of which, actually, if you think about it too, the whole thing about the use of the nerve gas on the Fort Knox raid, in the open there. I'm not sure how successful that would have been. You see those canisters. Those canisters don't look that big to me, so I don't know the amount of gas that's enabled to be employed in this particular plot. So that's one thing. I'm not sure. There's a quantity issue. There's also the act of having the gas be dispersed out in the open. Now I'm not sure what the wind was like on that particular day, but if the winds were heavy, then that could have totally spoiled Goldfinger's plot, because the wind could have blown all the gas into a completely different direction, and that would have left Goldfinger completely helpless in terms of the implementation of the second phase of his Operation Grand Slam plot. And also, there are other weather conditions that could have been had. Like it was the raid on Fort Knox was going to happen over the weekend, right? But you had to be really sure about the weather conditions. If there was rain or anything like that, that would have completely destroyed Goldfinger's chances, I think, or really put a serious detriment towards him implementing his overall plan. And also, I don't know, there's that moment when the vault door opens, and that poor guy, I think it's Goldfinger's henchman, he's like trapped, and the door is about to be slammed, and he's crushed. I've always felt bad for that guy. I always felt bad. And you don't see anything, in terms of really bloody violence, but you get the impression of what's going to happen. You hear a little, ugh, oh, that guy, I felt bad for him all the time. If he just ran just a few seconds earlier, his life would have been completely different. But oh my goodness, oh well. Um, and let's see. Um, Yes, Cooper Clever says Harold Sakata, odd job, gets electrocuted in the safe. He burned himself a little, but he didn't say anything to Guy Hamilton because he didn't want to ruin the tape. Yes, so that's a story that is, I think, told by Guy Hamilton in the great documentary. Um, Yes, Michael Mr. says, or Mister, regarding Pusha Galore, does her knowing participation in a mass murder plot for the sake of profit make her character borderline? Yeah, that irredeemable. That is actually a really good point, and that's something that is it's actually that's one of the questionable things, not about the film necessarily, but how to view her character. Really, as I say, she was willing. She and the members of the flying circus were they had to be knowing participants. They had to know what was going on. They had to know. So, um, and so that actually that is a great comment, and I'm glad it came here because that is a great counterpoint to what I was trying to suggest earlier about maybe there's a sense of morality to the character of Pusha Galore, but in fact, if you think about it, and Michael, Mister, you point out greatly, which is if she is willing to go towards, if she's willing to to carry out this plan, which involves the killing of so many people, maybe that means that she doesn't have that much of a moral compass to begin with, which is therefore saying that then how was she convinced so quickly that maybe it was all to do with Bond's sexual prowess and everything? Which, if that's the case, then maybe that is a further cementing of the criticism of that particular point. So that's a really great point, Michael. So thank you very much. Sorry, just sorry, I'm just getting sorry. I just got lost in the chat again. I'm so sorry. Sorry about this. This happens to me. The when the chat refreshes, and when it refreshes, it there we go. Um, I lose my spot sometimes, but okay. Structure of the film and the pacing. We go from location to location with really interesting scenes. Yes, I agree. Mainly movies. Hello. It's nice to see you. Um, Oh, Damful says Bond is referring to Dr. No coming close to disrupting U.S. space program. So Felix Leiter represents the United States in that reading. Okay, okay. If that's the case, then um, uh, yeah. Although didn't wasn't according to M and Dr. No wasn't or the film weren't wasn't the toppling wasn't the toppling plan wasn't already being implemented because the toppling was already affecting a lot of their rockets already, right? So it wasn't like they came awfully close. They were already affecting. Buckner was already affecting the United States if Felix Leiter is interpreted as being a stand-in for the United States. And in fact, it's not like if that were the case, then Bond should have said they actually they came awfully close, and actually they really affected you, didn't they? So not close because they came awfully close suggests that they didn't affect him at the end, meaning the United States. But in fact, I think they did from the beginning of the film. But anyway, yes, that's a good interpretation. Um, let's see. Um, Yeah, Rob says one of the worst lighters. He's like Bond is fine while he's in captivity. Yeah. Um, or it's like Bond. It's like like or like Living Daylights. Felix Leiter like, oh Bond. Okay, Bond. Watch out. Watch out there. He didn't even say, watch out, there's a pigeon or something. He didn't say that in Living Daylights. He's like, this and wait. Okay, Bond, you're in. All right. And now from here on in, Bond, I'm not going to help you. I know Whitaker's probably dangerous. I'm not going to help you. I'm just going to stay here on my boat or something. I'm just going to stay here and enjoy the time. Please enjoy. And but help me. Oh, what are we going to do? Oh, Pushkin. Thank you. So, right. So anyway, yeah. So Felix Leiter, gotta love Felix Leiter. Great. Um, yes. Um, let's see. All right. HMM says, "Have you ever wanted to direct or write?" Um, let's see. Oh, are you asking me? Oh, that's very kind of you. Let's. I did have such aspirations when I was younger. Yes, I did. I actually wrote uh, some uh, some things that I wanted to turn into novels, but they revealed to me What a poor writer I am. Will Rem is here. Hello. Yes. The Goldfinger board game from 1964 is a real gem. Always played it because somehow we had a box of it in school. That is so cool. They didn't let me take it home, so I made my own Bond board game. That is great. That is so cool. Ryan Harding is here. I think Goldfinger is a masterpiece up to where Bond is shot by the tranquilizer dart. After that, Bond is being cooped up for the rest of the film. Is a bit of a drag and lets the film down overall. That's a good point, but there is a way that Bond being in captivity is actually quite. What it does is he is doing a lot of mind games when he is in the captivity section of the film. And so, what do I mean? So, there is, of course, the way in which he is trying to convince Pusha Galore to stop the plot or to stop the plot of Goldfinger, which he obviously he's able to do. And there's also those mind games that he does with the guards, you know. Um, and there's the bit where, excuse me, it's like like done and na 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 na, like that bit, right? In the guards, like what's going on? If I were that guard, if I were training the guard, but don't move from your position. Stay exactly where you are, even if the person in the cell might be doing some strange thing. Don't move. Just stay there. And if anything happens, call someone else. Call 3 or 4 guys before you open the. Okay, so that's what I would have told him if I were the head of the guard training unit. But oh well, but that's an example of how Bond is trying to put mind games. And in fact, that's a really interesting point too, because that's a real great point of Bond and his physical prowess, because he ducks down. And we're meant, if this is meant to be the window of that particular door of his cell, he ducks down, and we're meant to understand that he, in fact, outside of view, he's climbing on the side of the wall and going up to the ceiling and waiting for the door to open before he can make his attack. That takes a lot of dexterity. I certainly wouldn't be able to do that on a physical level. So there's that. There's also the moment where he is he is essentially, we understand that all his time in captivity is making him think, and so he is using the time to think out all of these statistics about what the Operation Grand Slam plot is and how it would be impossible, statistically speaking, to carry it out if the premise of the plot is to steal the gold from Fort Knox. And he makes these calculations in his head. But that is the point where Goldfinger stumbles him and he says, I never said anything about stealing it. And so that creates, I think, an interesting type of moment of, let's say, intellectual appreciation, even if it's for a moment. Now, it could be an act on the part of James Bond, but an actual action. It also could be a moment of true, even for a moment, intellectual appreciation, because Bond is like, my apologies, Goldfinger. And he realizes what in essence is actually a brilliant plot, which is not to steal the gold but to make it radioactive. So to essentially make it virtually useless and valueless, which will then increase the amount of already existing gold by a certain amount. And so which is Goldfinger's stock. And so that type of thinking that Bond is undergoing and using it and utilizing while he's in captivity, I think is very important. And it shows that while he might not necessarily be in terms of an action type of thing that we might be used to in past Bond films and also future Bond films, I like this moment because it is arguably slow, don't get me wrong, but it's also this idea of Bond trying to think and trying to use mind games. This is very much also akin to what he does, I think, most spectacularly and most brutally in films like, say, License to Kill, in terms of what's known as sowing the seeds of doubt in a type of it's described as by Michael G. Wilson as being a type of Yojimbo type of way, if you know the Kurosawa film, which is a like Red Harvest and thing, but here in Goldfinger, I would suggest that there is that similar type of sowing the seeds of doubt to a certain extent, or at the very least, a type of internal intellectualizing and calculation that Bond is having to make even while he's in captivity. And so I actually like that very much. And so you remember the moment where Bond is against the wall on his cot in the cell, and you have all the guards, like so many in the cell with him, as a type of joke, maybe a visual joke, as a type of punchline to the earlier setup of what happened, how he escaped the cell to begin with. But actually, one can think that while he's on the cot there, he's just thinking in his head about what the actual plot of Operation Grand Slam is. And so if that's the case, I think it serves another way, another function. It could be seen to be boring and maybe not going anywhere. And I get that. I totally get that. But another possible way to look at that perhaps would be to see this as another viewpoint on the James Bond character, at least in cinematic terms. In the novels, we always get these moments of what Bond is thinking. Not always, but we get the sense of what Bond is thinking, sort of inner monologue. And we do get that too in other moments of this film and others. But I would say here we're really getting Bond thinking, because he has to think and he has to deduce and he has to become like a detective based on all the stuff that he has managed to gather in terms of information thus far, including what he has heard in the, what's the phrase? It's called the rumpus room. Um, I really should look rumpus. I don't know what that word means exactly, right? But anyway, the rumpus room is what is described as, which is the room which is where all the the gangsters meet. Incidentally, we understand that the gas is lethal, at least the gas that is being employed here in this particular moment. And I always feel bad for those, especially for those gangsters at the beginning when they're having such a good time on the wooden horse, or so the horse toy. They're having such a good time. I always felt that they're such joy. They're so joyous. They're like little kids that when they die later, I felt really bad for them as a kid growing up. Also, here's another moment where for some reason the implication of the gas suddenly turns on the strobe lights in the room, and so everyone, it's not like people are dying, but they're dying via like flash dance. And so um but anyway, except Mr. Solo, of course. And that's another interesting thing too about Goldfinger and his character. It's not like uh s- right, Oddjob kills Solo, takes the body, and does what he would with the body, a la say Bond does with Mathis, maybe, but Quantum of Solace. But the idea is that they're okay with having the body in the car and then crushing the car and then having the gold in the car while it's being crushed. So it's like, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll just separate my gold out later, which is really very it seems like it's not the best way to approach that particular problem. You'd think that after Solo was assassinated, they could have taken Solo, maybe put him in the car, taken the gold out and do that. But actually, come to think of it, had they removed the gold first, that would have caused some kind of maybe suspicion. They would have been seen by people outside of the Goldfinger compound. So maybe come to think of it, actually, it's more of a it's more sly cunning than I give Goldfinger initial credit for. Immediately, I thought that this was a total waste of time. Why would he do this? This seems completely unnecessary. Take the gold out first before crushing the car. But actually, now that you think about it, you don't want to arouse any suspicions from any outside people. You don't know who's watching. Police. We know that there was FBI there, or CIA, excuse me. There was CIA there, and so and Goldfinger does get a sense of that because Bond is there. They're onto him, or someone is onto him for some reason. And so maybe that's the reason why they had the gold in the trunk, Solo in the car, odd job driving off to some hidden away place, assassinating Solo, having the body there, drive off to the junkyard, crushing the car with the gold and the body in it, and then driving back to in a different car, driving back to the farm, and then having Goldfinger's "I must separate my gold from the late Mr. Solo." Again, all done but behind closed doors where no one can see, where there is no kind of thing. So okay, actually that makes a lot of sense to me now that I think about it. So sorry about that. I was just thinking out in real time. Okay. Hey, Internet. Eric here. Greetings from Illinois. Funny you mentioned Piranha Part 2 is spawning. Just a few weeks ago on my channel, we discussed that very movie with Alien versus Predator to our Lance Henriksen theme. Oh, that's great. That's great. Um, I know. I'm so sorry. You mentioned Lance Henriksen and Alien versus Predator, and there's Alien. I don't know about you, but Aliens, the film Aliens came out what, '86, and so I was still a kid then, and I didn't see it in the theater, but I saw Aliens much later. Well, not later, but I saw it on VHS. It was great. I loved it. I saw Alien. I had Alien and Aliens on the CBS Fox VHS tapes that you could mail out for, and they'd send you these tapes on some kind of limited subscription basis. And so, but my parents were did that for me because I was a kid, so I didn't have any income on my own. But of course, the scene, of course, is the one with Hudson and the knife and Bishop and the whole thing with the and Hudson and I remember I was so scared when that scene. I'd just be like this, oh, because if something happened, that would be so terrible. So I was so scared when that scene happened at the early part of that film. But anyway, yes, yes, thank you very much. Um, I'm just scrolling down here. Um, Ryan Harding says, having said the Goldfinger still ranks as one of my favorite Bond films, maybe for the aforementioned first half. Yes. Um, hey, Internet Eric, my knowledge of Bond is very limited. It's mainly the Pierce Brosnan films. However, I do own Goldfinger. Yes, please watch it. Yes, it's great. Although I'm so sorry, I am talking a lot about spoilers of the film Goldfinger. So maybe if you haven't seen Goldfinger, maybe put this on mute, or maybe you can turn off the live stream and then watch the film and then come back as a video. So because I am talking a lot about Gold. I've already mentioned what happens at the end, except at the very end. So if I am going to be continuing to talk about spoilers of the film Goldfinger, so just to give you a heads up, but I do recommend it so strongly. It's a really great one, and there are some great um, there's some great face acting in the film Goldfinger. Uh, like I don't know about you, but um, uh, who do I like? Golf Odd Job, the way he crushes the ball. Oh, like that. I love that look on his face. I love the smile on Najab's face. Is like this. He's like he knows exactly what's going on. Yes, I love the look of Goldfinger when he turns at the golf club, which is of course superimposed on the opening title sequence. Like I can't do it, but it's like he has that look, and I love the whole thing in Miami when he's like nod if you agree, nod. And he's nodding with his neck and the whole thing with the pencil, like, oh, I hate this pencil, oh, and so there's a lot of that kind of face acting, and I'm not saying this as a joke. I'm very sincere. A lot of the performance of the acting in these films and in any film has to do with how the actor uses the face and how one uses the muscles on one's face in order to register some kind of emotion or feeling. And so this is a very important thing, and I think for me also this is very reminiscent because I think Pierce Brosnan does a lot of great face acting, especially with his chin, and uh, I can't do it very well, but also he's running and things. So there's a lot of physicality there, and I think there's a lot of physicality in the face, and actually surprisingly too, I mentioned Goldfinger and Oddjob as the villains. There's a lot of physicality there. Um, but granted, there's a lot of physicality in Sean Connery's performance. By the way, I think Sean Connery here looks just. I mean, it's for me. He looks so physically like awesome in this, just his physique and the way he registers on screen and his suits and just the look. This and From Russia with Love to me are the peak in terms of that. And I think also, and maybe I would give a little bit more points to From Russia with Love only because of the scene where Bond meets M in his office early on after the death of Jill. I'm not sure if that suit that Bond is wearing is something that maybe Terrence Young would have approved. Yeah, I'm not sure because it does seem a little bit country suit-ish. I'm not sure. I'm not a fashion expert, but it does seem a little bit not like the type of what is it? Suits for the city, according to maybe the Savile Row tailors and Terrence Young perhaps would be like the it would be, they would have to be navy blue or gray, you wouldn't have black suits. You wouldn't. I think you wouldn't have brown suits. I think. And so, if my understanding is correct, then I think what the suit he's wearing in M's office is a brown suit with, I think, a beige type of waistcoat, which I'm not sure. Maybe that's a faux pas. I'm not sure. But anyway, we don't have Terrence Young at the helm. We have Guy Hamilton. But still, um, uh, his suit, his gray suit that he's wearing in the second half of the film is immaculate. I think from a fashion sense, and the way he wears it is just absolutely immaculate. And his other suit too, the darker suit that he wears at the end in Fort Knox is also just it's great. It has that fit to it, and I think the look of Bond here is just amazing. And it also the Rolex watch, I mentioned it before, the Submariner. Um, it's the two lines, it's the older I always forget the models of the Submariner numbers, but whenever, the Submariner models now have what's known as the four line Submariner models, which is what is it, the COSC certification added the extra two lines. But in fact, the two line Submariner, the no date two line Submariner is always, at least in my eyes, considered to be the classic iconic James Bond Submariner watch for anyone. So I don't think that's made available in the current Rolex lineup. And in fact, if you're talking about Rolex sports watches, if you know Rolex, or if you know the sports watches market in right now, it's absolutely, anyway. Sorry about this, but yes. All right, Damfool says, yes, I'm pretty sure Felix always has his hat on. Yes, thank you very much for that confirmation. Even when he's passed out, he's got his hat on. So yeah. Um, and talk about coordinated effort at such short notice to get all these people to fall down and pretend like they are dead, and to pretend like they're passed out for a considerable amount of time. It's not like they're passed out and they wake up like a minute later. They're out and they're pretending to be dead for what could be 5 minutes or more. So that's a coordinated effort. I mean, it's hard enough to. I mean, I have never directed a movie, but it's hard enough, I think, to direct all these people in one location. But this is multi-location at pretty much the same time, so that's amazing. And whoever directed this, is it Felix Leiter who directed this? If so, Felix Leiter is one heck of a director. That's like David Lean level, So uh, really well done, well done. So Felix Leiter is the director of this. I'm not sure, but if he is, well done, Felix. All right. Um, let's see here. Uh, yeah. ROP says the establishing shot from the helicopter of the hotel and swimming pool in Miami is probably the best cinematography in the film. It's very impressive, I think. Yes, all the way down to the timed dive. Yes, yes, yes. And I understand that according to the commentary, I think it was Guy Hamilton was somewhere in the poolside shouting, waiting for the right moment and giving the diver the cue to dive. So, but that's a really good point. Yes, really, really good point. Let's see. So I'm just Yes, Craig says yes. Auric, yes, auric has an A. Yes, the chemical symbol for gold. Yes. Oops. Give me 1 second here. My battery power is about to run out, so I'm just gonna plug it in here. We have. Let's see. I don't think I've even scratched the surface as to what I wanted to talk about, and I realize that we're almost out of time. So I will try to be as speedy as I can, but I do want to get to your chat here. Um, Yes, Erwin says Auric Goldfinger reminds me a lot of Drax from the novel Moonraker. Thank you. That's a good point. Um, so you're talking about the back projection in Miami. Yes, yes. All my life I've been, yes, Cooper Glover. All my life I've been in love with gold. I love its color. It's divine heaviness. I want my money, Goldfinger. Cooper Glover says. I think a reference to Solo. Yes. Incidentally, if that gangster Solo were instead Han Solo, and Odd Job or Greedo, then I think the tables would have been turned quite significantly in the Lincoln Continental scene, right? But in any event, yes, that's a different solo. Um, Erwin says, "What's with that trick pool table?" Yeah. Yes, yes. That's yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, Harry Saltzman, according to Cooper Glover 72, Harry Saltzman came up with the numbers to stop the bomb inside the safe at the numbers 007. Yeah, so I always like that too. It's not 3 seconds, but 7 seconds. And so yeah, and so that would have been interesting. Like if that really held, if these people saw the number seven and thought it was three, then then it would have been interesting if they had decided to follow a career in accounting, where their accounting skills would have led them. Because every time they would have seen a seven, they would have thought it meant a three. But anyway, yeah. Um, yeah, just scrolling down here again. I'm scrolling over some great comments here. Sorry about this. Um, oh, I'm at the point where we're talking about the devotion of Odd Job. Yes, Cooper Clever, 1970. You can turn off the charm. I'm immune. Yes, yes, yes. Erwin says yes, and the KFC KFC CIA guys drive a Thunderbird if I'm the KFC CIA. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. Yeah. They're at that KFC a really long time, right? That's great. Yeah, yeah. Oh, the double. I'm at the point where you're talking about the double blowout. Yes, and it just destroys her car essentially. Yeah. Um, like double blowout. I've never seen one of these before. Yeah, and like her door is completely destroyed too. Yes. Mm. Although nothing, I think, as great as Connery is, of course, nothing will ever top for me in terms of car gadget jokes in Bond films. You know, the delivery of Timothy Dalton in The Living Daylights in his Aston Martin. I've had a few optional extras installed. Oh, oh, yes. Right, Timothy Dalton, right? Uh, what is it? What does he say? You know, Bond, he's not the Superman, right? But according to Guy Hamilton, this is a supercar, right? So what is it? Is it he's a Superman? He's not a Superman. This is a supercar. It's not a supercar, right? And then there's of course the Guy Hamilton and Superman connection. But of course, anyway, sorry. Um, let's see. Uh, Michael Porteous says, "What are your thoughts about who will be the new 007 actor and what new story direction it could go?" Yeah, no idea. I have no idea. I'm always thinking about, well, not always, but I do think about it. But my guesses are really terrible. So I have no idea. Of course, it's a good opportunity to go into yet another direction because we always saw different directions that these films took when you know Roger Moore. It arguably, I mean, there was some continuity, but there was still also some differences, I think. And then also the Timothy Dalton era. I think there was some continuity, but there are also some notable differences. And then, of course, into Pierce Brosnan's era, there was, I think, a lot of noticeable difference there. Although there's a line of continuity. And then we go into Craig's era, so it's the same thing. It's very much like the way that things happen with Doctor Who, and how the trajectory seems to change more or less with a different Doctor. But yeah. Um, Pete 1972 is here. Hello. Yes, yes. Um, I didn't even talk about, yes, they're talking about the outfits. Didn't even talk about the golf scene. The golf scene is really, while we still have time, the golf scene is classic, right? Because it's another level of Goldfinger's cheating. And Odd Job is also in on the scheme, and also we see the power and influence of Goldfinger about, what will the club secretary have to say about the decapitated statues? Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club. And I love the thing um where Goldfinger does the thing, rubs his eyes. He seems to be rubbing his eyes a lot. Maybe it's allergies. I'm not sure, but he's rubbing his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, nothing, Mr. I own the club." And he's like, and it's a huge moment. It's like it's, I don't know if you know Christopher Nolan, right, in the film Inception, and there's a character played by Ken Watanabe called Saito, and he says, I bought the airline. It seemed neater. So I find that that's kind of a Goldfinger line, and it's a Goldfinger line because Goldfinger kind of said it in a similar way with the club, and so yeah, I love that line, and I love the whole thing. Oh, if that's his ball, original ball, I'm Armour Palmer, and I love how people are like really wanting Goldfinger to lose, and the look on the caddy's face after he's lost the game, and it fades out. He's just smiling. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's just putting the flag back in the hole. Yeah, yeah, you won, you won. It's great. And a lot of things too that are really interesting. Goldfinger is about to putt. I think it's the 16th hole, and he's about to putt. It's a short putt. He probably could make it, especially given his handicap. But he's really under his breath. You didn't come here to play golf. And then Bond throws the. Who throws the gold? I'm not sure. Is it the caddy or is it Bond? If it was Bond, where did the gold come from? Was it in his pocket? If so, those are deep pockets. And what was the direction? I always forget. Not Blofeld. Goldfinger is standing here. Bond is standing here. The hole is here. Therefore, the ball is here. The ball should go in this direction. Bond is here. But if you look, I think the gold is coming from this direction. So is it the caddy that's throwing? I'm not sure. Maybe it was I don't know. But anyway. And it's a heavy bar of gold too. So actually, you shouldn't throw bars of gold, I think, on greens because it could dent the green. So there's probably like a gold bar sized impression on the golf green right now. So anyone who's following them would probably notice that. So that's one of the things about throwing ball. Like if a ball lands, I don't play golf, but my dad did, and I used to when I was a kid. I play golf a little bit, but right, if a ball lands on the green from far away, it leaves a dent or impression on the green, and so it's manners in order to essentially repair the impression by making the indented portion of the green flat. And so I could imagine if you threw a heavy, how heavy is a bar of gold anyway? I don't know. I've never considered that, but depending on how it's thrown, how it's thrown, it could have left an impression on the green. And if that's the case, that's probably bad golf manners. I don't know. Is there a rule in golf manuals about throwing objects on the green? I'm not sure. If that's the case, maybe they weren't playing strict rules of golf at that point, right? They were playing strict rules of golf, or were they? I'm not sure. They were playing, definitely confirming that they're playing strict rules of golf on the 17th and 18th hole, right? So there's the last two holes, right? So in any event, that's yeah. Anyone who's a golf expert, please let me know. But I love that moment too, with after they finish the 17th hole and they're on to the 18th tee. And Bond has been able to switch the balls. The Slazenger 1, Slazenger 7 balls, complete with his own Slazenger wine-colored a sweater, I think. I don't have one of those sweaters. I'd love to have one of those, but anyway, I don't have one, but they look so cool. But anyway, he switched the balls, and he gives him the fake ball, and all square, and this is the clincher or something, and then it's Goldfinger's. He goes ahead first, and then the caddy's saying, "It's your honor," because I think the rules state that Bond had the honor of going first on the tee, so and that's all right. and the ball, right? And the ball falls off the tee. And I love the bit where Connery's just grabbing the caddy's like arm, like that, like, oh, you can imagine, the tension. He really must have been grabbing the caddy's arm, like, oh, I hope he doesn't discover the ball, So, but I love that moment. That's a great. It really drives the point home that this is a real suspenseful moment, and the fact that they were able to do this and generate all this suspense is really quite lovely. It reminds me too of how they did the poker game in Casino Royale. I love Casino Royale. I've mentioned that. I love that. But of course, it's oh Mathis, you're talking again. Oh, please tell me what is going on here. But I for all like so if they're talking 12, all this money in the pot, like, and he's saying this to Vesper, says, Mathis, I know. Thank you for why are you telling me this? I already know this, but of course we know this because he has to tell the audience, and so there's this way in which information has to be revealed to the audience about a particular game that perhaps not all audience members might be familiar with, which is the game of golf, right? Some people might be, but others arguably might not be. So you have to know what the rules are. And I love how there is a little bit of that type of Mathis-esque type of information reveal over the course of the golf sequence, but it's not so much hitting the nail on the head like that. It's I would suggest a little bit more subtle in terms of the rules of golf. Although there's strict rules of golf, Goldfinger. Your time is up in terms of if the time is up, then it'll cost you stroke and distance, in terms of finding the ball. And then all the close up about Slazenger 1, Slazenger 7, Penfold Hearts, and things like that. But I think that's just enough to give enough information, and it's not hitting the nail on the head too much, right? So I really like the way information is revealed, how it's set up really quickly and really economically, and it's carried out and paid. It's followed through really nicely. So yeah, great stuff. Let's see. It's Chris Collins. Hello, yes, that's so hilarious with the old lady and the submachine gun. Yes, always wondered how she was involved. And Damfools, yes, is the old lady inside the vault. Yes, it would have been so cool if that old lady was at the very end, Fort Knox in the vault, fighting Bond. Wow, wow. Anyway, um, let's just scrolling down here. Damien is here. Um, let's call her Goldfinger's mother-in-law. Let's see. Revolving plates. Seth says. CBC Legend is here. Hello. Hello. Scrolling down here. Um, Talking about where you could hear Froba's voice. Yes, you say 1 or 2 spots. So I don't know where the second. I know people have said 2 spots, but I don't know where the second spot is. Is it the golf scene when he says, "You didn't come here to play golf"? Is that it? I'm not sure. I really can't tell. But you can hear the voice in one of the trailers. Yes. Um, Michael Porches, which other actor would you have had to play 007 in Goldfinger? I don't know. That's a good question. Um, I'm a big fan of Timothy Dalton, as you know, and so Timothy Dalton in Goldfinger would have been really interesting. I feel like, yeah. First of all, it would have been that grinder thing that would have destroyed Tilly's car. It would have been the laser, and it would have been like the laser. Oh, it's not a double blow. It hit her entire top half of the car would have slid off onto the grass there or something. So that would be one thing. It would be like, um, what would Timothy Dalton have said in some of those situations? Maybe on the laser, he would have said, um, oh gosh, what would he have said? I'm not sure. Um, Or maybe it would have been like, like you there's a plane to Miami in an hour. Oh, I'll take that plane in an hour. Better make that two or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really bad with my Timothy Dalton impersonation. Maybe if Timothy Dalton were on the laser, it wouldn't have been. It would have been like, "Good night, Miss." But Goldfinger, don't you want to know why? He would have said, and Goldfinger would have stopped and said, maybe, and then maybe he would have been like, "Here's the lighter, ah," something like that. But anyway, yeah. Um, oh, I can't wait to talk about License to Kill. I cannot wait to talk about. I love License. I love this. Yes. Um, or he would have been quoting Ernest Hemingway titles or something like that, or I don't know. Do you expect me to? No, I expect you to. Oh, ask not for whom the bell tolls. Or something. Let's see. All right. Sorry, scrolling down here again just for time because it's almost 10, so I do have to get going soon. And let's now begin to think about the next film. All right, so we're gonna finish in about 5 or 10 minutes, and we have to decide on the next film. So please, everyone, begin to ask Zyrother, or maybe you've started already. I'm not sure. Zyrother, Cooper Glover, Damn Fool, Idealist Crusader. Everyone, please ask and figure out what you want to do and decide what you want to do for the next Bond film discussion. I am up for anything. So let's see. Um, a great chat, by the way. Okay, let's see. You have double. Yeah, Cooper Glover says you have 0.007 seconds to vote. That means you have 3 seconds or 7 seconds. And someone said, I remember a while back, I was making the comments somewhere online on some forum about, the flying circus and the countdown of the flying circus before they release the gas. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. And I always made the point, what happened to one? What happened to the number one? And someone made a comment to me, say, "Oh, you wouldn't use the number one in that situation, in that type of count. It's very common in that type of situation, in maybe aerial conditions, to have a countdown that doesn't include the number one." And that was the comment that was given to me many years ago on some forum or something. I forget. Is that true? Is that true? Is that like if I'm not a pilot, so I don't know, but if you're a pilot and you're counting down, is it customary to skip the number one? Um, I mean, it was probably, I don't know. Um, yeah. Oh, Seth Walls. Yes, this is No Time to Be Rescued. Yes. So another one of those. That's another GoldenEye link too. Like we saw the link between Tilly and Bond in the cars, right, in Switzerland driving. It's very much like the opening of GoldenEye with Xenia on the top, and then we also have the whole thing about, um, at the end of some kind of huge mission, being outdoors in the middle of the woods. What are you gonna do? You want to get rescued? You want to do something else? So oh, yeah, let's. This is no time to be rescued. Oh, let's frolic in the middle of nowhere, in the woods outside. It could be cold. It could be hot. I'm not sure. In a parachute. Okay. This damn fool says, I've wondered about that in aerial terms. I've always assumed it was Peter Hunt hunting, yes, from time or other to close up and a shot was damaged or something. Yes, I always thought that too. It was due to an editing necessity or something. Yeah. And no one would have caught it because we were already in the moment anyway. So, um, and it wasn't like she was saying, 5 seconds and counting or anything like that. Um, Or maybe they should have had the "Diamonds Are Forever" guy to count down. He would have made sure they would have said one. Um, all right. So while we're waiting for the oh my goodness, Wow. So From Russia with Love, World Is Not Enough, and Tomorrow Never Dies or Die. That's wow. That's great. I'm game for any of those. By the way, I'm really am. I don't mind going out of order either. I think, as I mentioned, with Daniel Craig's films, I think it's important to go a little bit in order. But here, I'm okay either way. Tomorrow Never Dies is in the lead. Okay. That's okay. Well, okay, let's wait a few more minutes for the end of the poll, but in the meantime, let me say some closing comments on Goldfinger and move on. There are so many other things I neglected to mention. I really wanted to talk about, but I'm so sorry for time. The score, the John Barry score, is golden. It is really, really golden. Truly is. The song's great. The lyrics are great. It sets up everything really quickly, and you're out of the gate immediately. But the score, there is a type of of um, of a playful banter that is also very deadly and menacing when it has to be. And there is this type of bubbly sense which is really wonderful. And also the soundtrack is really great too, because it has the rendition of the Goldfinger instrumental with the da 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 moment, and the whole use of the guitar, which is very, very lovely. Uh, let's see let's see what else. That's one of those things about the live stream. You can't edit out these moments of your mind blanking on a particular thing that you're about to say. Um, let's see. Um, oh yes, yes. There, of course, there are a number of other what might be considered maybe mistakes or goofs. For instance, the end sequence involving Goldfinger in the plane, in terms of where what there's suddenly some other henchman in the background, but then the henchman is passed out suddenly after Goldfinger is flying through the air, and all that. There's another bit of great face acting too when Gert Frobe is in the window there, and he's stuck in the windows. Like, you know, oh, that is a I can imagine how painful that must have been. But I don't know. Maybe it was in the moment. I'm not sure. Maybe this is what's the phrase, Monday morning quarterbacking on my part. If it is, I apologize. But if I were Goldfinger, or if I were maybe coaching Goldfinger in this, if I were coaching Goldfinger, if I was this life coach of Goldfinger, if I there was a class about what to do in the event that you're in an airplane and suddenly all the air pressure is such that you're flying through the air and you might get sucked out through a window. In that situation, what should we do? I would say use your hands. Use your hands. Do whatever you can to grab onto anything. Don't go like this. Grab onto the wall or the side of the windows. At least then you have a chance to keep your body in the inside of the plane. It might not have worked out in the end because, of course, we're dealing with a lot of pressure and body weight. In fact, I'm not even sure how that would work, if that really would happen in terms of him flying through the air. Probably not. I love the image of the firing of the Smith and Wesson in airplanes, like of having a blowtorch, firing a blowtorch through butter, or as Sean Connery says, having a blowtorch through butter. I love that. That's a great image, and it's a perfect image. It's a perfect way to explain something that probably needs more scientific explanation. But it's the perfect image because I think everyone can understand what a blowtorch through butter does, and that's exactly what happens, and it follows through. Is it scientifically accurate? I'm not sure because I'm not an expert in air pressure dynamics, but um, in the world of the film, of course, he flies through the air and goes through the window there. But my goodness, if I were his coach, I would say, by all means, use your hands. Use your hands. Try to stay in the plane as much as use your hands. Don't flail. Use your hands. But oh well, I wasn't his life coach at the time, so it didn't work out that way. And I love too how when the plane is crashing and they have the monitor, Felix Leiter and his monitor, um, they're able to monitor not just the crash but also like it's like this, you know what I mean? It's like what is this, is the parachute. So apparently there's some kind of homing beacon on the parachute or something, which is that the case? I don't know, because the Homer thing that Bond was able to get. He got the big version and the small version, but then the small version was already used up when it was put in Solo's pocket. So maybe he had a spare. I don't know. But in any event, that's really da 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 da, right. Um, And of course, it ends with an explosion, another explosion, because we didn't get the explosion of Fort Knox, but we need to have that. What in essence is this sort of cinematic palate cleanser of the explosion of the plane. But in any event, yes. All right, yes. So So anyway, yes. So just to conclude, had so many more things I wanted to say in this live chat, but or live stream, but I couldn't. I think that's a testament to how packed full of stuff the film Goldfinger is, and how wonderful it is as a cinematic invention, and um, the type of wondrous delights that it has. It's not free from criticism. I know that there are some peculiarities of character development. Excuse me, I certainly know that as well. But no film, I think, or maybe very few films in this world, if any, are perfect. And even with its imperfections, I think it stands out still as this really top-notch entertainment that is so dense, so multi-layered, so funny, and so iconic. And if anything, um, you know, just it leaves so many impressions. And let me just end too with just the moment. I didn't even mention Odd Job and Bond and the fight in Fort Knox. Let me just end with this example, and then I'll go to live chat and finish. But that fight is amazing. That fight is absolutely amazing because everything we see Bond do is totally helpless against Odd Job. This is a foe that is unlike any other foe that Bond has faced so far. It's not even like Red Grant levels because Red Grant had a certain vulnerability physically. Here, this is like super villain status. He can't punch him. He can't even with a piece of hard wood. You can't phase Oddjob, and Oddjob is unstoppable. And there's no reasoning with Oddjob because you know that if you try to reason with him, it's not going to do anything. That's why he's fighting, even though, right, the bomb is going to destroy both of them. So that is an amazing fight, and I love the moment too where he's walking and he doesn't want to necessarily kill him. He walks in his dun, dun, which is a great sting in the soundtrack or the music, which is it's very much like a Twilight Zone. If you know the show The Twilight, that's like a Twilight Zone type of sting in the music, and I love that because what does that show? Ultimately, Oddjob is about the moment. It's about I don't know if he wants to kill him. He just wants to play with him. He wants to fight him. It's like that. It's like that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. The guard. He doesn't want to fight Indy Jones. He doesn't want to kill Indy Jones. He just want to fight him. And the plane is going there, but he just wants to fight. And I love that moment. And he's thinking because of the hats there, and he's thinking, and he's just trying to engage. And he's smart too. Our job is smart because he can maneuver and duck and do that thing. Of course, it's a reverse and like that. I get that, but still, in the moment of the scene, it's really brilliant, and so that shows a lot of intelligence on the part of Oddjob, I think. Of course, his downfall is the thing that he's known for, his hat, which is a clever thing. That's his strength. That's also his weakness, and and that leads to the amazing, spectacular moment, which is if you have this larger than life character, you have to his end has to be larger than life, and that's what it is. Just it's a spectacular ending, and it becomes this. And when he leaves, he goes out with a bang. That's for sure. But it's yet another indelible impression in a film that is, as I say, a collection, a gathering of so many indelible impressions. Perhaps so indelible, perhaps too indelible. Perhaps that bar of gold on the golf course in the green was too indelible, and they'd have to repair the impression. That's for sure. But if it's a deep impression like that bar of gold could have been, then my goodness, what a deep impression this has left on the world of cinema and the world of James Bond. Of course, now we speak about it years and years and years after fact. It's still with us, my friends. And yes, there are moments where perhaps it might seem a little bit maybe dull in certain places, but I think that could potentially lead to further implications about Bond as a character. And it also, I think, is a film where maybe it feels one way one moment, but upon rewatch, and this is the great thing about rewatches in general, as we know, upon a rewatch, we can look at it in a wholly different way and still find a new and yet at the same time comfortable way to appreciate and have fun with this film. What a great example. Goldfinger from 1964. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, um, with my last thing here. Okay. Okay. So where are we with the poll? Are we all set? If so, I'm all set to go as well, but please let me know what you think. We have another tie. Okay, 3 minutes. 3 minutes and counting. All right, so how should we spend the next 3 minutes here? So, um, what should we end? Let's decide what to end with in terms of Goldfinger. Um, because we always end the live streams with a type of detail from the film. Maybe I suggest let us end with we should end with a line from the film. I'd love to end with the little, but it's probably hard to do with. Let's see. Um, okay. I'll end with a little. I'll end with a little quiz. I'll end with a little question, and you can give me your answers in the live chat, and I can end the live stream. We'll do that. So I have a Goldfinger related trivia question, and so I'll ask that, and then you can give me your answer in the in the chat. Okay, so we'll do it that way. So in the meantime, we will. Okay, 2 minutes. 2 minutes and counting. All right. Ryan Harding, if you want to celebrate Christmas in Turkey, you all know what film to vote for. I admit that joke in The World Is Not Enough, right? It's famous or infamous, I suppose, depending on your point of view. That joke, when I first heard, I actually it took me a while to get what I didn't quite get what that was to be perfectly honest. Figured it out a little bit later what that was referring to. But at the time when I first saw The World Is Not Enough, I was thinking, is that a joke that's referring to like a broken clock is right twice a day or something? But oh well. But anyway, I get it now. So yeah. All right. How are you on the? How are we on the 1 minute? 1 minute and counting. All right. I feel like there should be. I mean, we should be on. There should be like this huge bathosub hanging or something. Uh, this is no time to rescue it. Yes. Okay. World is not. All right. Yes. World is not enough is in the lead. Okay, that's fine. Captain UG69. Hello. It's nice to see you. Mint juleps all around. Thank you, Seth. Closing. Okay. All right, it's closing. Hmm. There's one critical element I may have overlooked. Okay. All right. So yes, 9 votes out of 16. So the world is not enough is the winner. So okay, great. The world is not enough. I'm very happy with this. I haven't spoken about any Pierce Brosnan film other than GoldenEye, so it'll be nice to get back to the world of Pierce Brosnan. There's Tomorrow Never Dies, of course, that comes before that, but The World Is Not Enough, I think, is fine. And I don't think there's any need to stick necessarily in terms of a plot progression. There isn't any type of close sequel relationship, I think, between The World Is Not Enough and, I'm sorry, Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. So I think we're good with that. So yeah, The World Is Not Enough. I'm very, very pleased with this. I enjoy this film very much. Um, and I can already think how I can end the how I already think of a possibility anyway how we can end the live stream for The World Is Not Enough, right? It's like always have an escape plan or something like that, so we can do something like that. But what a great way to go. Which it's a very poignant scene, as we know, in terms of Desmond Llewellyn and his role in the series. But um, yeah, yeah, that, and we'll talk about a lot of things there. We'll talk about the um, why would you fix your tie in the middle of the Thames, Bond? I don't know, but uh, we'll talk about the ski chase, which I think is really great. We'll talk about the relationship between Bond and and the characters here and the villains and the heroes, and also the development of M as a character. And we spoke a little bit about M and her Judy Dench's M and how important she was in the context of Skyfall. But I also mentioned in that conversation how I think M's involvement is actually, I would consider her role in the plot of The World Is Not Enough to be much akin to that, and maybe a suggestion of the type of character M is. And so I'm very much looking forward to this, very much indeed. It's another great Pierce Brosnan role, and we spoke about Pierce Brosnan. I love Pierce Brosnan's performance. Don't get me wrong, but there's some great Pierce Brosnan chin acting here. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic, right? It's I have to say the line, one last screw. Yeah, so I love so it's very famous, but we'll talk about that. Yes. Um, and yes, the nuclear rods. Yes, of course. Yes, that's the nuclear rods. Yeah, that's one long, right? It's just taking forever, But anyway, um, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. And there are some links too. The way that the bulletproof glass is used at one point, it's very similar to a scene that happens in Spectre, in the Daniel Craig film Spectre. So yeah, so very excited. Oh, this Miak Dalen says, "Oh, thank you very much for the live stream super chat here. Thank you very much. You say great stream as always. Keep up the great work. No, thank you. Wow, I'm very honored. Thank you very much. All the hard work is to you and to everyone else here, my friends. I'm just here sitting down, talking about a film that is just so much fun to talk about, Goldfinger. It's all due to you, my dear friends. So thank you very much. Um, Danful's talking about Michael Apted, yes, and 5 bags of popcorn. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much. Mars and Worldwide. Thank you very much. Um, and Tom, thank you so much. Um, yes, and the whole thing with the the whole thing with the glasses and being able to see through all the glasses. I never not understood those glasses actually because like it can see through certain types of fabric, but it can't see through others, So for some reason, Q programmed it, or someone programmed those glasses where you could see through only the outer layer of clothing, but you can't see through like undergarments. So undergarments are somewhat, for some reason, that's like Superman in lead, So if maybe the undergarments are made of lead, I'm not sure. But any event, yes, yes. Oh, I Kona 23, thank you. There's no point in living if you can't feel alive, and I love it. Yes, yes, and even Pierce Brosnan's well, what the WTF moment. It's like, really, there's no point in living if you can't feel alive. He's really questioning. Electra, right, and her what her plot is, and if he had pushed that point forward, he really would have gotten to the heart of the plot early on. But oh well, yeah. There's no point in living if you can't feel alive. Oh yeah, yeah, it's great. Um, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Pierce Brosnan, what a great performance Pierce Brosnan gives. Yes. Um, yeah, it's so great. Yes. Um, I never miss. And that's a pretty that's some pretty um that's some pretty bold diving there that he does, right? Pierce Brosnan's James Bond that he does in the film, right? That's a pretty bold dive. What's the higher dive? Is it that dive in The World Is Not Enough, or is it Jinx's super reverse dive in Die Another Day? Or is there another dive that's even higher? It's much higher than Doctor No, right? The dive in Doctor No. Um, or is it and Diamonds Are Forever? There's another dive in Diamonds Are Forever. Which is higher? Which is the highest dive? I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much, my dear friends. You are really, really wonderful. Thank you. And so we will see you at the next live stream for The World Is Not Enough. And yes, Damn Fool says the best dive overall is the off the oil rig and Diamonds Are Forever. Yes. Um, but let us never speak of Jinx's backward dive, says Ryan. Yeah, it's really wonderful. Um, it, it 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 kind of reminds me, I know, I think there's a computer effect that's employed about, it's her face, and then suddenly along the way it becomes a computer graphic image or something. It always reminds me of a scene in a film called Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace, and a character called Darth Maul. And there's a certain fall that happens, and there's a moment where the character fall, and then suddenly there it turns into what I think is a computer graphic image. But right, anyway, so Jinx and Darth Maul, um, in terms of that CGI. But I think I don't know if it's dated very well. We'll see when we get to Die Another Day, which I hope is very soon. I can't wait to talk about Die Another Day. By the way, I'm so excited for that. Um, very very excited for that. But the first up is, of course, The World Is Not Enough, and I'm so happy for this. Yeah, and oh gosh, I think I've agitated a few people about mentioning the dive. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It wasn't my intention in terms of the Jinx dive. But oh well, I mean, right? Do you remember back in the day, Michael G. Wilson, what he said? Oh, I think we can give Jinx her own film series. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? We could have had. Oh well, but anyway. So, um, yeah, we'll talk about that and other things hopefully when we get to Die Another Day. I'm looking forward to it. But as I say, before that, and maybe some other films along the way, we will talk about The World Is Not Enough, and I'm looking forward to that very much. Right, because it's, after all, it's not a foolish sentiment. What is it? Family motto. All right. Okay, my friends. So let's see. So thank you very much, my dear friends. You were great as always. You look out for me all the time, and your oh, Reinhardt. Are we going to talk? Who has great lines, classic lines? Yeah, I'm not going to mention it, but the great line, the with one of the characters, the final fight, and right, and the thing at the end, and Jinx's, right, the thing what she says at the end, right. Right. Well, that's great. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to Die Another Day. But first, yes, The World Is Not Enough. So thank you very much, my dear friends, for all that you always do, and your support and kindness and friendship, and your great input and enthusiasm for this and other films. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I'm always so moved, and I learn something new all the time. So thank you so much. Um, Oh no, what have I done? What have I generated to die another day? Time to face gravity. Yes, yes. Um, I mean, right? I mean, Sean Connery could have said that to Goldfinger, right? Goldfinger, it's time to face gravity because you're flying through the air. It's like a blowtorch through butter. Time to face gravity. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop. All right. Uh. Oh my goodness, what have I done? What have I done? Yes, yes. Money penny. Okay. All right, my friends. All right, thank you so much. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so thank you very much. Yes. And so we will end with the question, and so I will end with the question, and I will end also with you can also end with impersonations. I will end with my impersonation of the old lady in Goldfinger, like this. So as I close out, I will ask the question, my trivia question to you, and then I will end with my impersonation. Okay, so thank you very much, my dear friends. Have a great rest of the day wherever you are in the world. Cheers. Be well, be safe as always, and I will see you at the next one. My dear friends, thank you. So, last but not least, please leave your answers in the chat. So, my trivia question to you, and it's a hard one. What does Goldfinger love? What does Goldfinger love? If you know the answer to this, my friends, please answer in the live chat, and I will look forward to hearing your responses to the question, which is, my dear friends, what does Goldfinger love? Okay, my friends, thank you so much. Be well and be safe. Rachel, my dear friend, thank you, thank you. I have to get back to you, Rachel. I lost track about the email, but I should get back to you about what we should do together. So let's do that. Thank you so much. Or if you can send me an email or something, that would be great too. I do want to have another collaboration one of these days. Again, music soundtracks, that would be wonderful. So thank you so much. But to Rachel and to Zyrother, Cooper, Clever, Matthew, Erwin, Mike, Seth, Damfool, ROP Rope, thank you so much, and everyone else here, thank you so much. Thank you. So once again, what does Goldfinger love? Wow. Yes. I love Kubrick Lover 1972. Gold? The question mark. I love it. That's great. That's oh, I love that comment. Wonderful. Gold. Yes, yes, yes. What does he love? What does he love? Yes. So thank you very much. And now let me end with this. All right, thank you. So little old lady impersonation time. Yeah, and imagine what the film have been like had she been fighting against James Bond in Fort Knox. Imagine that. Wow, wow. No offense to Odd Job, my friend. Maybe they could have had a tag team. Odd Job and the little old lady versus Bond. That would have been unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. But anyway, thank you very much, my friends, and cheers. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. And I'm on. I'm just reading the last comments here. Yeah, she's tough. She is tough. You can't like she, right? Because I'm sorry, I have to end this because right Bond, if you remember, he was driving. He could have driven right through the gate, but he didn't. He drove and he went the other way, and so that's all because of her. That's all because of her. So she is very strong. She should be up there in the pantheon of Bond villains. So anyone who does a Bond villain ranking, don't forget her. Really, don't forget her. She is. It's thanks to her. If it weren't for her, Bond would have escaped, and Goldfinger's plot could have been foiled that quickly. So let's remember that, my dear friends. Anyway, cheers. Thank you.